Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Big show today, recapping busy weekend in the Canadian Football League and the latest on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as an important player back at practice, a former player signed by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and preparations underway for another kickoff of the week, a Thursday night game, this time on the road in Montreal for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Another nice weekend for the Jays. We'll hit on that. And it, of course, is Manitoba Open Week. Breezy Bend looking forward to welcoming the best of PGA Tour Americas, as well as golf fans around the province to Breezy Bend. The event starts on Thursday, Pro-Am on Wednesday. We're going to actually be there starting tomorrow with coverage from Breezy throughout the week. So big weekend for golf in the province and a big weekend for us and Winnipeg Sports Talk and, of course, our friends out at Breezy Bend. A little later on, the second hour of the show, after Ken joins us, we're also going to be going across the pond to jolly old England, where the Women's Rugby World Cup is about to get going on the weekend, and the lone Manitoban on Canada's national team, Emily Tuttosi, is going to join us. We'll find out a little bit about Emily and about the squad as they get ready to get going. That is going to be first match on TSN Saturday, 11:30 p.m. So we'll do that. We'll hit the cool bet lines. Big Jays game tonight. Phenom Paul Skeens. The only reason to watch the Pittsburgh Pirates is on the bump tonight as the teams go at it down in Pittsburgh to open up a 3-game set. So we'll touch on all of that. Welcome to everybody in chat. Hope you all had a great weekend. Big thanks to our sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at CoolBet Canada. Don't forget, Friday, we're going to have our first WST Winners NFL show of the year, and we'll be rolling live 10 a.m. Friday mornings throughout the season with our favorite picks. But before we get to week 1 picks, we're going to look at what's on the board for the upcoming season with my pals Pat Gregoire and Jake Boland-Moss from CoolBet. Connor will be involved in that as well, but we will have our first episode on that a little bit later on. Of course, our friends at Princess Auto, Roldy's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, and F Apparel, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, Assiniboia Downs, the Winnipeg Goldeyes, Breezy Bend. We'll get to a Why Not question of the day for Not AutoCorp at Waverly and McGillivray, and of course do some fan feedback for fansfirst.ca. Look who's back in the chair after a week on holidays, Michael Remis. Remo, how was your time away from the show?
Yeah, it was awesome. I'd taken a couple days off during the season, but I hadn't taken a full week since October, so it was nice to be away with the family and other families. Again, relaxing. Watch the Bomber game on Thursday. Very nice. So happy to be back. As a very busy week this week. You mentioned Manitoba Open, but also CEBL Championship weekend.
Yes.
We will have the commissioner, Mike Moriali, on later this week. That is confirmed. And big week for the Sea Bears and the CEBL here. So there is lots going on mid-August, and NFL, as you said, just around the corner. I'm starting to get excited about fantasy. Drafts are being scheduled, completed, and exciting time. So happy to be back in the chair, Hustler, especially after a Bombers win.
Hey, just speaking of the CEBL, huge upset yesterday.
Yes.
Or on Saturday, I should say. It will not be the Vancouver Bandits, who finished as the number 1 team in the CEBL at 19-5 coming to Winnipeg to take on the Sea Bears. It will be the Calgary Surge. Now, Calgary was a real strong team as well, 17-7 on the year. But I think everyone expected Vancouver to be the team. They'd sort of been the class of the West. They'd been the class of the league. But the West was certainly stronger than the East. So the Sea Bears, who finished at 11-13, have the Calgary Surge 17-7. And that is going to be the late game on Friday. Both of the semifinals will happen Friday at Canada Life Center. 5 p.m., the Scarborough Shooting Stars will take on the Niagara River Lions. And interesting, Scarborough, upset the Ottawa Blackjacks and really ran away with it, 114-81. Scarborough and Winnipeg, identical 11-13 records. Niagara, 14-10. They won the division. And then, of course, the Calgary Surge, who had to win 2 games last week to get to Winnipeg, will be the highest ranked team basically by the regular season standings. So we will touch on the CEBL championship weekend. Lots going on downtown this weekend as well. A bunch of free events, concerts. Be a great thing to get the kids out for if they haven't been to some Seabears basketball before. And then, of course, the championship game coming up on Sunday, also at Canada Life Centre. But interesting weekend in the Canadian Football League, Reem. And listen, obviously on Friday we spent quite a bit of time breaking down the Bombers' 30-27 walk-off win over the Ottawa Redblacks. But when you look at the rest of the action in the league this week, it kind of shows that we're back to where we have. It seems like we've been every year except last year, with the West being the dominant division. BC getting a big win. Saskatchewan planting their flag as the number 1 team in the league, beating the Hamilton Tiger Cats in a game that was highly anticipated. And even the Elks getting a win, beating the Toronto Argonauts at home. So, listen, damn good thing the Bombers did win their game, because they needed to keep pace with everybody else in the West that was putting up wins at the expense of the 4 Eastern teams.
Yeah, and how about BC? Nathan Rourke looking fully back, and Nathan Rourke at home on Saturday night. Nothing I love watching more. If only it was a 9 p.m. local start, I would have loved it even more, but I'll take it. 4 touchdowns for him and 382 yards. Keon Hatcher taking the lead in receiving, 156 and 2 touchdowns on 11 catches. Crazy. And for Edmonton, you have to wonder what would their record be if they would have gone with Cody Fajardo, who's looked very impressive as the starter. Trey Ford not getting it done, and has that ship sailed for him. And Saskatchewan, they're 8-1. You know, they had a great first half last year, but really fell off in the second half. They'll try to keep it going forward. And Calgary, they're 6-3, so the West very strong. In the East, Hamilton, you know, we kind of thought this about Bo Levi. He can beat up on the bad teams, but against the top teams, at least against Saskatchewan, didn't look like an MOP candidate at all. Saskatchewan winning 29-9. Toronto, their defense taking a step back, and Montreal and the Bombers' next opponent, you know, Caleb Evans, we've seen him for a number of years injured, and now they've got Sampson in at quarterback. Is that the guy's name? It's like so far down. Sorry, not Sampson. James Morgan at quarterback. You know, he did all right, but his first career appearance. So the Bombers have a real chance here now to improve their record. And it was pointed out by someone on X last night. You know, if you take away the Bombers 0-3 against Calgary, the record's actually, looking not bad. Looking not bad. Us 5-1 against everyone not named Calgary. That's actually pretty good.
Well, yeah, sure, but unfortunately, Calgary is still a very big part of this Western Division and be one of the teams that they'll have to get through if they want to get back to Princess Auto Stadium for one more game at the end of November and try and win the championship that's evaded them in the big game the last 3 years. But look, so there's a lot of work for the Bombers to do, and we're going to get into it more with Darrin Bauming, Bombers at the midway point of the season. But again, great news for the Bombers with Dalton Schoen returning to practice today. Now, he is on the 6th game. He's missed 5. If he does miss this game, presumably the target is he'll return for the Labor Day Classic, but wouldn't mind to see Dalton Schoen get back in and give him some game reps and hopefully help them win a football game against Montreal on the weekend to get to 6-4 before we start worrying about the Calgary Stampeders or the Riders, of course, on the Labor Day weekend. As I said, Bauming's going to jump on and join us a little later on. He'll be our first guest up today from practice with the latest on all of that. And I'm sure we'll find out more about DeMario Houston's status with the league and with the Bombers after he was signed on the weekend, looking to shore up shore up that secondary. Just back to Rourke for a minute, though, Reem. He has been... Listen, you know that he's a prodigal talent, and I think last year when he came back, and he's now basically been back in the Canadian Football League for a year. I think last week was the anniversary of him officially being cut, deciding he was going to cut his losses, come back to the Canadian Football League, sign a big deal with the BC Lions, and restart his 3-down career. He has really stepped up his game, and while maybe the Bombers caught BC at a good time early on in the season. If you watch that game against the Montreal defense, that's still very good. I mean, their offense wasn't getting much done. Nathan Rourke, I think back-to-back 400-yard games right now. He's cooking. And, I know we talked about this in the program last week when you were away. Rourke last week at Coolbet was 11-1 for MOP.
Whoa.
Going into the weekend. While the three leaders were Bo, VA, and Trevor Harris were all shorter than 4-1, and then Nathan Rourke was there. I would be surprised if Nathan Rourke is not very much in the mix for the nomination from the West for the most outstanding player by the time we get to it, which of course means good things for the BC Lions, and that is why these games are crucial for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to keep on keeping pace with everyone around them and then taking advantage of their opportunities with the Riders head-to-head in back-to-back weeks to try to barge right back into the mix with an opportunity to potentially still win the West with half the season remaining.
Yeah, just looking at the Grey Cup odds right now on Coolbet has the BC's at 13-1 and the Bombers are 12.50 to 1. So a bit of a longer shots down, but hey, the tide can change. I think you're right. When you look at the Bombers wins, they caught BC at the right time. Rourke wasn't in for one of those games. It was the first game of the year, and he hadn't really settled back in. He looks like he has the last couple weeks. And, yeah, this West division looking very deadly. And the Bombers with a huge chance coming up to get a win against Montreal on Thursday against, their fourth-string quarterback. And then the 2 games against Saskatchewan could be huge for the standings. And the Bombers, I think this is why you don't want to overreact so much to stuff that happens in the early. It is a lot about how are you playing going into the playoffs. And the Bombers roster could be looking a lot different. Dalton Schoen returning to practice today. Darrin reporting that he's going to join us. And the news yesterday that they signed Jamario Houston, and this is a team that's struggled while at receiver, making big plays, and at defensive back, allowing big plays. That would be huge additions to the team as they look to solidify the roster heading towards the second half. So I think the Bombers got the win. Wasn't pretty. Back-to-back significant blown leads, not ideal, but hey, they got the win, and they could pass Calgary for second, and with 2 wins against Saskatchewan, could certainly there's a lot of runway to catch them. For first, I think they know there's
3 head-to-head games.
Yeah. Oh, there's 3. Wow, that is crazy. So usually they play 1 before these 2, but the schedule this year has been they were playing Toronto a couple times. You played BC twice, Calgary
the schedule's
3 times.
Been so weird. It's been all back-to-back games. They ended up, with the 2 against BC. There was a game with Edmonton. Then there was 2 against Calgary. Then there was 2 against Toronto. Now we're into a bit more of a normal schedule where you're actually not going home and home back-to-back. They beat Ottawa. Now it's on the way to Montreal before you get to the traditional home and home with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. You mentioned Jamario Houston. I see Paul Audette in chat. Hey, Husson Remo, great pickup with Houston. And then Riders look super strong. Now listen, this Houston pickup is not without, I guess, some level of controversy, and we'll try and get more information on this. Credit the 3 Down Nation guys for being all over this. This is the scenario. Jamario Houston, of course, was with Winnipeg. He'd had 12 interceptions through 30 games in the last couple seasons. But he was released by the Stampeders in February after 3 Down reported that he'd been charged with misdemeanor domestic violence in North Carolina following an argument with his wife in November. The 28-year-old denied the allegations, and the charges were dismissed in court with the intention of being expunged from his record. Now, where this gets a little tricky is that following the release, Dave Dickinson indicated the team had been instructed to make that decision by the league, and his future employment opportunities would be determined by the CFL's gender-based violence policy. It is unclear right now if the league has placed any conditions on the registration on his new contract. I'm sure that was a topic amongst Darrin and the rest of the media earlier today at Blue Bomber practice, so we'll look to get a little bit more information on that, and again, talk about the landscape of the league and the Western Division at the halfway point, at least the halfway point for the Bombers coming up right now. As far as practice notes, Demario Houston was wearing number 9. There was no Michael Chris Ike today. We did have Dalton Schoen in uniform, still wearing a brace on his left knee. And as I mentioned, he's got 5 games on the 6th game. He can return to practice without coming off the IR. So we'll wait for some clarity from Mike O'Shea this week as to whether there's a possibility he plays on Thursday, or this is still just part of the continued process to get the Bombers number 1, number 2 target. Nick Dembski's been pretty damn good this year, back in the mix. And Peyton Logan as well, practicing for the first time since camp. And defensive tackle Cam Lawson's back after 2 weeks out as well. Peyton Logan's interesting that he's coming in and practicing, Remo, in that he was thought to be the answer at the return position. But Trey Vival has been spectacular in that. And of course, with that massive game he had against Toronto, what's complicating things a little bit is Trey Vival is now a starter at corner. And I wouldn't be surprised if Peyton Logan was able or good to go. We might start seeing him get into the mix, at least in the return game, to maybe keep Vival as fresh as possible on the defensive side of the football with the responsibility he's holding for that. But no shortage of things to get to with Darrin when he joins us in a few minutes.
No, Darrin at practice, and Peyton Logan, I mean, he looked pretty good before with Calgary, and the Bombers did release running back Quinton Cooley as well yesterday, so I think that opens the door for Logan to come in. And yeah, if Trey Vival is starting at corner, Huss, I do agree that, he had that game with the 2 touchdowns. This would be an opportunity to bring Logan, who has, return experience, be a running back. I wonder if he gets some carries, because I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but that 2nd and 3, the dying minute of the game, I thought that call to do a quarterback sneak was way worse than going for the field goal. You might as well throw in the towel if you're doing a QB sneak at 2nd and 3. Like, you have the MOP, Brady Oliveira. I don't know why they don't want to, give him the ball there. But hey, if Peyton Logan,
certainly putting your cards on the table and letting them know what's coming.
If you're putting in Stravler, yes. If you're putting in the Stravler package at 2nd and 3, yeah. And Sergio's been awesome, but I found that decision at the time puzzling there. So I do want, there's been talk about Brady, if he's got this shoulder injuries from the first game that's still lingering. I feel like if it was lingering, like, why is he playing? He's out there catching 40-yard passes. He's still making plays. Maybe they'd be more likely to spell him with Logan rather than Cooley or Paterson. So I'm curious what's going to happen with Peyton Logan. But I wasn't there on Friday, so I'm sure you guys had a lot of fun talking about some of the decision-making at the end of the win there.
That was it's funny you say that, because that was essentially my take. Like, I guess at 3rd and 2, like, it said 3rd and 1 on the scoreboard, and we were in the end zone, so it was tough to see. But if we're talking about a long one, or basically 2 yards, it's tough to justify going for it, knowing if you didn't make it, what that would meant. Short field down. And listen, Sergio, I get throwing him out there. I mean, he's done it before, but it's far from a sure thing. And it did beg the question as to maybe they should have taken a little bit of a look at the 2nd and 3 play, and at least give your quarterback the opportunity to throw it if he needed to, hand it off to Brady Oliveira, keep the defense honest, as opposed to saying, hey, we're about to run it up the gut, try and stop it, which they did. But you know what? And you've mentioned this before when we were chatting, Remo. There was some good stuff from the offense early on. And ironically, after the pick that Zach threw, credit to the defense for stepping up, getting the ball right back. Maybe some of the best execution we've seen by the offense all year was when the game was on the line, setting up the walk-off by Serge.
I think that's what gives you confidence in the team going forward, that, hey, the game was on the line. Zach Collaros stepped back, found Nick Dembski, scrambled for a big gain. And look, see those young legs there on that play? And and maybe, they know they need to execute better, and maybe they can figure this out and, advance and, get towards the Grey Cup. You'd love to see a West final in Winnipeg. I don't know if we're going to see that or not at, the way the standings look right now, but the way that they were down and you thought, oh man, they're going to go to overtime. The fact that they were able to engineer that drive to get down the field into field goal range, that was very impressive. And maybe the most impressive thing we've seen from the offense this year. Well, that game against Edmonton was pretty impressive, but that was against Edmonton. This was crunch time. After you thought the game was slipping away, they went and grabbed it back. So I was very, very impressed by Zach Collaros there in the pocket. I don't know if there's too many guys other guys you want to have back there.
Well, listen, and I've expressed a little bit of concern at time that maybe some of the pop from Zach's arm has, kind of taken a bit of a hit this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, there was the throw that certainly looked like an underthrow to Nick Dembski after the touchdown return that gave the Ottawa the ball back. I did find it interesting going back and rewatching it that Nick Dembski in his post-game interview really hung that one on himself. So listen, maybe that's just being a good teammate and sort of backing up the quarterback, or maybe he felt like he didn't run the proper route and wasn't in the right spot. Needless to say, communication or whatever it was ended up being a pick, which you don't want to have at such a crucial time in the game. But it gave the opportunity to the defense to step up and get a 2-and-out. That's exactly what they did. And the Bombers ended up winning that football game. So on to Montreal. Darrin Bauming is going to join us in just a few minutes of the program. Hey, one thing I will say, Remo, by the way, I meant to say this right off the bat. It's always fun going to Bomber games and Jet games and seeing some people say hi and mention Winnipeg Sports Talk, how they're enjoying it. I was not expecting as many WSTers to pop up and say hi on the weekend, but it was very similar out at the Burt Block Party on Saturday night. What an awesome event downtown. And there's a lot of WSTers out there, so great to see everyone that popped off to say hi. Saw the Glorious Sons, great show on Saturday night. And it did take me back to the radio days, Reem, because it was a real who's who of the radio. The King, Joey Allo was there, along with Philly from 92. And I saw our old pal, Colin Lougheed.
Oh,
Colin was there. He's working with Power, I guess, now, and had a great chat with Colin and some of the other spots. But Glorious Sons, it's funny. I had heard of them and was familiar. I'd heard their name. I don't listen to a ton of rock radio, or really haven't in a pretty long while. So I wasn't entirely sure of their catalog. I couldn't name a song. But the old story, when you go and watch the show, you hear a bunch of things. Oh, yeah, I know that one. I've heard that one before. It was, anyways, really, really awesome event down at the Burt Block Party. And I know they were sold out down with Webster and Mariana's Trench on Friday night. And then they had an event on Thursday as well. So if you haven't been to that event before and you're in the city in the summer, make a point to getting out to it next year. It's very cool to gather downtown in a fashion like that with some great entertainment and a lot of great people, including a lot of WSTers.
Yeah, they've done a great job making this an annual event the last couple of years, and I'm all for more concerts. And I'll give a shout out to another event taking place in Winnipeg this week, Huss. I drove by at the Grant Park field there near Pan Am Pool. We talked about it on our show, the World Youth Archery Championships. Huge setup there going on all week. So very exciting stuff. A lot of events taking place in the city here in August. So cool. Nice to hear you had a great time at the Burt Block Party as well.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. So again, CEBL Championship weekend this week, Manitoba Open this week. But we are going to dive in to the latest on the Bombers with Mr. Bonfire himself, Darrin Bauming, coming up in just a minute. Folks, if you have a move plan coming up, lean on our friends at Rolly's Transfer to help you and your family out. They have been doing it for over 60 years, family owned and operated here in Winnipeg, and are the most trusted name in moving services in Manitoba. Pop by their website at rollys.com. And in the top right corner, you can click on Request an Estimate. Make sure to put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And simply let them know when and where you're planning on moving and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they are famous for. Doing it now into their 7th decade. The most trusted name in moving in Manitoba, Rolly's Transfer. Find out more or request an estimate today over at rollys.com. Big shout out to our pal Dr. Terry at St. Patel Dental Center. I'm pretty sure Terry will be out with us at Breezy Bend this week for the Manitoba Open. Of course, St. Patel Dental Center sponsoring the Manitoba Match Play. If you have been delinquent and seen the dentist, or you're looking for a great spot for you and your family to get full dental services, a lot of smiling faces waiting for you down at St. Patel Dental Center. They got a beautiful new facility with state-of-the-art equipment at 167 St. Anne's and convenient free parking right behind the building. Go online to stpateldental.ca for more information on all the services they provide. And you can also book an appointment to pop in and see Terry and the gang. And don't forget to tell them that Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. As we look ahead to a big weekend coming up, don't forget Canadian Club limited edition Blue Bomber label bottles available right now at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And in addition to the very special Canadian Club bottles, Canadian Club, of course, the official spirit of the Blue Bombers, the Canadian Club Club Pack is also available as well. The best of Canadian Club and Ginger, the Citrus Smash, the Half and Half, summer approved and waiting for you at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And of course, what a summer it's been, but it is not over right now when we're getting powered by Manitoba Battery 12 months a year, but especially in the summer for the best prices, period, on batteries for literally everything, including everything you need to make these summer weekends amazing. Whether you're boating or camping or getting on an ATV, Manitoba Battery has the batteries you need at the best prices in town. As Donnie says, wake up Winnipeg and stop paying more for batteries at the big box stores and missing out on the incredible service provided by Manitoba Battery. Of course, pop by and see them at one of their 2 Winnipeg locations, Logan Avenue or Dovercourt Drive. But you can also just simply give them a call or order online at manitobabattery.com, and they'll deliver the batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter of Winnipeg. It is just that easy. Shop local, get the best deals in town for all your battery needs at Manitoba Battery, manitobabattery.com. All right, Reem, I think we had Darrin, and did he drop out?
Yeah, he had a bad connection. He says he's back, but I don't see him in there, so I am just texting with him.
Okay. Well, we'll see what's going on. Listen, let me throw out the why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray right now. And this is just a vibe check on you Bomber fans. How are you feeling about the Bombers right now as we are at the halfway point of the season? Important to remember, as kind of iffy as the team's felt maybe for the past, month plus, the Bombers are 5-4. Last year at this time, this team was 3-6 through 9 games of the season. Listen, we know exactly what they did in the second half, and that was reestablish themselves as the team to beat in the West and the Canadian Football League, and they did that. They earned the West Final at Princess Auto Stadium and went to a 5th straight Grey Cup. I will argue that the possibilities of doing exactly that probably less today than they were last year, even with the change in the record. But certainly we've seen some positives, especially last week with the defense stepping up after a very, very tough outing in Calgary with some big-time injuries. as well as the offense, when they absolutely needed it as well. T. Will says, I felt better. And I'm with you there. I mean, listen, there is an element that we've been spoiled. And listen, it's pretty fun to get used to a team that is consistently in and around first place and going to the championship year after year after year. Most of us are old enough to remember that this isn't normally the way it works in the Canadian Football League. So there's that much more credit to the organization for establishing the level that they've had. But this has been a struggle at times this year. And I think we've found that there are a number of areas the team needs to get better at. And some of it is the way they're playing. Some of it may very well be personnel. And that's why we have seen a couple changes to the roster. Certainly NFL cuts will be happening as well moving forward. And whether that may be something that the Bombers dive into, I guess we will see. Phyllis says, I have a feeling that the Bombers have a bunch of veterans on the team keeping the ship afloat. And we have a bunch of rookies, both players and coaches, who are using training wheels. I have patience. Alan Hurton saying, nice getting DB All-Star Houston back. And Kevin Soldier feeling better, but worried for what's to come. Robert Campbell, nauseously optimistic, felt more confident at this point last year. And Key says, this team has no threat at receiver. Its interior D-line is weak and O-line grades very poorly in run blocking. Hate to say it, but this team is a fraud. Not sure I'll go that far, but keep your fan feedback coming in the chat. Of course, fan feedback on Winnipeg Sports Talk is brought to you by fansfirst.ca, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no added fees. What you see is what you pay, unlike pretty much every other ticketing site as well. And the good news is the Bombers sell out every game. Fans First does have Winnipeg Blue Bomber tickets, so you can find out there. If you can't get one at Ticketmaster, you can head in fansfirst.ca for the next game. And of course, that next game already sold out. It is the Banjo Bowl. Speaking of Princess Auto Stadium, that is where we find Darrin Bauming of Bonfire Sports, who joins us now post-Bomber practice. DB, what's going on, dude? How are you?
Doing well, Huss. Just dodging the wasps here at Princess Auto Stadium. And practice just wrapped up. Just heard from head coach Mike O'Shea, heard from Demario Houston, and heard from the OC and the DC as well. Lots to talk about with this football club right now.
Well, listen, there's a number of places to get to, but why don't we start with Demario Houston? Listen, we know that this guy can play. He's been a big part of Blue Bomber teams in the past. Was released in Calgary after this domestic violence accusation. The charges were dropped. I'll just use the quote from 3 Down Nation. The charges were dismissed in court with the intention of being expunged from his record. And yet Dave Dickinson said that they had been told that they weren't to sign Demario Houston. Like, what do we know about what has happened, what has transpired, and is there anything preventing him from suiting up for the Bombers, or does the commissioner still need to rule on this, Darrin?
There is nothing in the way of Demario Houston suiting up in the Canadian Football League at this point. Houston, as well as Blue Bombers officials, Mike O'Shea speaking about it. I'm not here to talk about all. Hang on.
Oh,
you still got me?
Now we've got Darrin Bauming live. Yeah, we still have you. We got the live look as you walk through the concourse of Princess Auto Stadium. We don't usually get to do this. This is the live look. You're looking at Bauming making moves right now, just past section 125. If you just popped in, we'll reset this, but just talking about Demario Houston's situation with the Canadian Football League, because as we mentioned earlier, Dickinson had been indicated the team would be instructed to make that decision, i.e. released Houston by the league, and said his future employment opportunities would be determined by the CFL's gender-based policy. So I was asking Darrin,
be better now.
How we're feeling about, or not how we're feeling, but what is the likelihood of Demario Houston getting the green light to suit up with the Bombers, or is there more that needs to be happening? And from the sounds of it, it doesn't sound like there'll be anything more coming from the Canadian Football League and the commissioner. We've just had the great live look at Bauming going from one end of the stadium to the others. Pick up where you left off, just talking about Demario Houston and his situation now that he has been signed by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Pardon me if I'm out of breath. Just ran the length of the football field, and my days of playing this game are well behind me. There is nothing in the way of Demario Houston signing a contract, which he has with the Blue Bombers, or suiting up to play. Houston spoke about this just maybe 20 minutes ago, Hustler, and he said that he worked with the Canadian Football League and their violence and conduct policy, worked with it prior to his release of the Calgary Stampeders in February and afterwards. And, the team has just simply stated that when it comes to this issue, the singular issue that led to his release from the Calgary Stampeders, there can be a variety of other things going on. But the one that the CFL is concerned with has been settled. The charges were dropped. It's in the process of being expunged from his record. That means essentially erased from his record. It has not been yet, but it's apparently in the process, according to his lawyer and a handful of reports out there. Michael Shea was very clear today. There is need in football, and then there is, the values that a football team holds. And he was perfectly clear that need will never trump the values of this football club. So they feel comfortable about it, and that's the decision that they made, because the need is there. They are depleted in the defensive secondary, and getting somebody like Demario Houston, who has 13 interceptions in his last 30 games, last 2 seasons in the CFL, 15 games with Winnipeg and a Grey Cup appearance, and then 15 games with the Calgary Stampeders last year. Last thing I'll say, I asked Houston how he's feeling physically, because he spoke at length about obviously all of these legal issues and the contract and all that. He says he's ready to go, feels healthy and physically able to be in the lineup. I don't expect that to happen this week, but they need him. He'll be in soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, listen, I'd be stunned if he wasn't in the lineup by the Labor Day game. And let's face it, this is a big addition for the Bombers. I mean, they have been decimated at corner. The 2 starting corners in Bridges and Bonds, one has been cut, one is out for the season. I will say, though, Darrin, I was very nervous as to how that secondary would fare against a Drew Brown that was coming in after a game where he had 5 touchdown passes and 5 incompletions. And I got to tell you, I thought the defense, this isn't the Bomber defense of old, but considering, I think, some of the concerns, I really do think they acquitted themselves quite well, especially with that key 2 and out late in the game after the Bombers somehow found themselves in a tie game after those 2 late Ottawa touchdowns.
Yeah, a huge goal line stop early in the game as well. The defense has played well, but they haven't played consistently well, and that's obviously the concern. I think the same thing could be said about the offense, and when it comes to turnovers, you could probably say the same thing about the special teams. A lot of Bombers fans, in my live chat and in your live chat and in people's social media mentions, everything, there's a lot of concern about this team. I mean, 5 straight Grey Cups, there's a standard of expectation. And Winnipeg is capable. They have the tools. I'm perfectly confident in saying that, but they are not playing to their own standard or anybody else's standard right now. They're kind of a middle of the road team. They're 5-4. They're going to play a 5-5 quarterback riddled Montreal team on Thursday in Quebec. And, we'll see what we get, because you never seem to know what you're going to get with this Blue Bombers team. When it comes to the defense, I mean, all those changes on the back end, it'll be important to get that stability. This week, Peyton Logan, the veteran running back and return, could make his Blue Bombers debut. He was injured in training camp. And what does that mean about the defense? Well, that means that Trey Vavel doesn't have to do double duty. He can just focus on playing corner, and Peyton Logan can handle the returning duties. So that will help things. And then obviously the return of Demario Houston, maybe it's a week, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3. But when he's in, that'll obviously be a big boost to that secondary.
So let's go back to Logan for a minute. And, just in the open, when we were talking about some of the things that we were going to be getting to you, I speculated that if Logan is activated and is able to go, maybe he does get reps as the returner to take that load off. It is a tough decision, though, because Vavel, listen, he was the player in that Toronto win. It was a very unlikely win considering what was happening with the offense. And, he's turned into sort of found money at that position right now, Darrin. But at the end of the day, that does take a lot out of a guy that has a pretty big job on his shoulders right now, as long as he's a starter.
Let me share a universal truth about the game of football, especially at the professional level. You have problems, and then you have good problems. And good problems are when you have decisions to make and you have options. So Trey Vavel's going to be in the lineup. If they want him to return, he's going to be able to return. But having Peyton Logan there, a guy who's in his 5th year in the CFL, what is he, 5'6", 190 pounds. He's built like a little bowling ball, super shifty and quick. He'll be able to handle things. And if Winnipeg maybe wants to switch things up, or, the Montreal Alouettes special teams have kind of keyed in, they can put Trey Vavel there and have that 1-2 punch. That's a good problem. Right now, unfortunately, the Bombers have true problems, probably surmounting more than those good problems when it comes to returner.
Well, one thing that has been a problem is production at the receiver position from guys not named Nick Dembski. I will say this. A lot of respect for Kieran Wheatfall. He had been very, very quiet, had not been impactful. And that was a dude on Thursday night that was willing to pay the price to help his team. Like, he took a couple of the biggest hits I've seen on a receiver in a long time and got up and kept on ticking. So shout out to him. But we're waiting for Dalton Schoen to get back, and it was great to see 83 back on the practice field today. What did you see? Apparently he was still wearing that brace on his left leg. And tell us about him at practice, what he did, what he didn't do. And then was there any update from the coach as to his possible availability to come off the 6th game early, or is the target still the Labor Day Classic?
Yeah, I had to split out of Mike O'Shea in order to join you guys, so he might have spoken to that. But Dalton Schoen, he's running full speed right now. And it was clearly a sprained knee or some sort of knee injury. Maybe he'll wear that brace for the rest of the year. But I've always heard fans say, like, well, he's got a brace on his knee, he's not 100%. That's not always true. Sometimes it's a preventative thing. But today, Schoen running, catching footballs, looking really good, looking really crisp, frankly. And with his work ethic, I have no doubt that he is going to hit the ground running when he's ready to be in the Blue Bombers lineup. I expect that to be Labor Day in Regina. I don't expect him to be in the lineup Thursday in Montreal. He was working with the second team offense today. That is the Chris Streveler offense, all of those number 2 guys, when Winnipeg was kind of going through their offensive reps. So it's going to be a huge addition to this offense to get that safety valve, to get that safety comfort blanket that has kind of been described for quarterback Zach Collaros. Dalton Schoen is such an impactful player. You add him to Dembski, and we all know what he can do. Kieran Wheatfall, so well described by you, Hustler. It wasn't just the big hits he took. Like, it was incredible watching that. But he would catch the ball and immediately get blown up by a defender. That is not an easy thing to do. Kieran Wheatfall is an absolute stud. He is balling right now. They got to find ways to get the ball into his hands more.
Well, I'll say one thing. And, if we want to give out half-season grades, I think a lot of players that maybe previously would have been the A to B range maybe haven't been there so far this season. One guy that has been, though, is Nick Dembski, and man, did he prove his worth to the football team once again in that game on Thursday night. It was interesting, and I'll get this from you. If you heard the post-game interview on TSN, he said that, he was happy that he had a great game and won, but it was going to keep him up all night. He really put that late interception, which just looked like it was underthrown by Zach Collaros, on his shoulders. And maybe it's just talking about, the fight that you need to have on one of those 50-50 balls to make sure that it doesn't end up in the other guy's hands. Could have just been being a good teammate. But you do wonder where this team would be this year without Nick Dembski, because for my money, he's been the offensive MOP for Winnipeg up until this point.
I think I would agree with you, Hustler. You're absolutely on the money with that. people always say in sports, like, well, the guy's a Swiss Army knife. He's got every tool you could possibly need. I've always called Nick Dembski for a few years now the Canadian Army knife. He can beat you deep with his speed. He can be that possession guy in the middle level on crossing routes. He can make things happen in traffic, make things happen in space. And then he can do it in the backfield too. Like, the Blue Bombers use him as a between the tackles running back, in addition to those jet sweeps and some of those, around end type handoff plays and shovel plays. He's just so versatile, so valuable, and seemingly ageless. Like, I don't know what it is about Oak Park guys. I'm sure people are hoping the same thing for Brady Oliveira when he gets up to Nick Dembski's age. But whoever they produce, Andrew Harris, Dembski, Oliveira, all of them just seemingly ageless when it comes to their production level. And it's almost like between the ears, the smarter they get, the more wisdom and experience they get, the more that they're able to produce. It's really something to watch.
And this is going to date us, but we've been watching this guy for a while, and it is important to note. I mean, when he was a breakout star for the Oak Park Raiders, he was a running back. When he started off with the U of M Bisons, he was in the backfield. I don't think it was until his third season at the U of M till they started using him as a slot back to really take advantage of all the versatility that he has. And listen, we've seen Jason Hogan use him in similar ways this year. On the defensive side of the football, we've talked a lot about the secondary and the issues that they're trying to overcome right now, and certainly that's a big reason why Demario Houston was signed. I will say one thing. I didn't have a lot of time for a few of the early season performances from Willie Jefferson, but if we're looking at this half in 2 quarters, I kind of feel like Willie Jefferson has really raised his level of play over the last 4 games or so, Darrin, and feels like he's just coming into form in time for these back-to-back games against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Thoughts on how important Willie has been? To me, it was he and Trey Vavel that basically won that game against Toronto. Right. And once again, even if he's not showing up in the sack column, the way he's batting passes down, the way he's rushing guys, the way he's just making life miserable for other quarterbacks is something that has to continue if this defense is going to continue to improve.
Winnipeg's defensive front uses so many different looks. They'll use 3 down linemen, 4 down linemen, different combinations of linebackers, and even the defensive backs. That strong side linebacker spot's a cover DB or a cover linebacker. I call it the dime back, a little bit more of a technical term, but they use so many different personnel packages. The constant is Willie Jefferson. He never comes out, and he's seemingly one of those guys that he just decides to flip a switch and he's the best player on the football field. That game against Toronto here in Winnipeg, where he had 4 pass knockdowns, like, that's more than, I would say, 95%, 98% of the league has all season. He had that in 1 game and a strip sack that led to a touchdown. He's just kind of on a different level. You really have to wonder if things worked out differently for him. I think he would be making plays today in the National Football League. But the NFL's loss is Winnipeg, and the Canadian Football League's gain. I think as a whole, Winnipeg's defense, not just the secondary, but everybody, they need to be way, way better. But when it comes to Willie Jefferson, you kind of always know what you're going to get. They just got to find a way to flip that switch when they need him most, because the difference between idle Willie Jefferson and that switch being flipped is night and day. He is an absolute game wrecker.
Now, another Thursday game, this time on the road in Montreal this week. And listen, we saw the quarterback issues that the Alouettes were dealing with down to their 4th stringer on the weekend. I do think they did sign Chad Dukes. Maybe we'll see him. He's got some more CFL experience than Morgan does. Nothing's been easy for the Bombers this year, and this one won't as well. I mean, the Montreal defense is legit. But Darrin, this is a game, especially when you look around at what's happening in the CFL and particularly in the West. Bombers got that win. Everyone, to use a tennis analogy, held serve, if you will. This game is simply one based on the standings right now that Winnipeg have to take advantage of the quarterback situation in Montreal, and then get themselves to 6-4 with the opportunity of 2 consecutive weeks against the team that has been running the show so far this year. the one-loss Saskatchewan Roughriders?
This game on Thursday is two teams from different divisions that are both at the tipping point of their season. Winnipeg, as you mentioned, 5-4. 6-4 is a lot different than 5-5. And the Alouettes are 5-5. And like while you were asking that question, I had to pull it up because I couldn't remember even their quarterback's name. James Morgan got his first start in BC in a loss this past week. And it looks like, excuse me, it'll be Morgan again. Cameron Duke signed, a veteran guy that has not started a lot of games in this league, but knows this league. And that's a very valuable thing for a quarterback. I don't expect him to get the start. It's probably going to be James Morgan and a little bit of Caleb Evans once again. So that leaves Montreal really leaning on their defense. Don't sleep on this Alouettes defense. The playmakers that they have, led by Tyrese Beverett and their linebacking core, and their defensive coordinator, Noel Thorpe, for my money. I mean, if I had to win one football game, I would want him to be my defensive coordinator. He is that good. So it's going to be up to the Blue Bombers offense. In my opinion, the absolute key to this game is Kolaris, the O-line, and Brady Oliveira in the run game to hold on to the football, bleed the clock, score touchdowns, and not settle for 57-yard field goals. That's their path to success. They've had people kind of giving me the gears, Hustler, saying, well, you can't say it's a must-win game when it's the first half of the season. In my opinion, Winnipeg has had 3 must-win games so far this season. They won one, they lost one, and they've got one coming up on Thursday. You better buckle up. It's going to be a physical game too, because that's something, it doesn't matter what the matchup is, your team can win the physicality matchup in the CFL. It's a feather in your hat and a real opportunity or positive thing to help you win.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when Evans got hurt in the BC game, like Morgan came out, I had never heard of him. I said to the guys, I have never heard of this guy. And he came out and listen, he wasn't terrible, I guess. The thing, it does, just as we were having this conversation, it did remind me of a certain third string quarterback that came in last year for Montreal in Davis Alexander, who's now the guy they're waiting to come back for. So, I mean, you can't take anything for granted, but with what BC is doing and the way they're looking right now, Darrin, like, I don't think they're falling off. I think BC is going to have a very strong second half of the year. So it is incumbent on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, especially with the teeth of their schedule coming off on all these games against the Riders, 2 against Hamilton as well, that, I mean, you don't get opportunities to go up in that deep, far down the depth chart very often. Yeah. And with where the Bombers are in their season, this is one that they absolutely have to have. What's the schedule like for the club the rest of this week? I mean, presumably, I guess tomorrow will be a closed practice and then a walkthrough Monday and getting on the plane to get ready to kick off Thursday night?
Yeah, you named it. They canceled practice yesterday. Now, they were probably here working, but nothing yesterday. Today, they were on the field, and we got a chance to see some of those guys. You're right. Tomorrow will likely be their mandated, or it seems to be mandated here in Winnipeg, but every team is allowed to close one practice every prep week. And then, Wednesday, it'll be hop on the plane and walk through in Montreal ahead of that game on Thursday. So what we saw today was Schoen's probably a week away. Peyton Logan looks ready to return, both figuratively and literally. And, Winnipeg starters on offense and defense look unchanged for this game. What a huge one for Winnipeg. I'll be honest with you, Hustler. I don't know how you feel about this, but Winnipeg has been such a dominant team for the last half decade. I'm kind of starting now to enjoy and kind of revel in the importance of every single game for this football club, from a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
Well, listen, I mean, it's the funny thing is, I mean, we had, they started off 2-6 last year. At this point, after 9 games, they were 3-6.
Yeah.
But we saw what they did in the second half of that season, and I think we, kind of had a little bit more confidence that that was going to be the case. Part of it was that the Saskatchewan was in the middle of going 2 months without winning a football game, and no one else was doing much around them. It's very different in the West this year. Calgary has been a revelation. The Riders have been the best team in the league. BC is on the come up right now. Mm-hmm. Even the Elks are winning some football games right now. So you cannot count on everybody else doing the work for you. It's time for the Bombers to kind of take care of their situation themselves. They did it against Ottawa, albeit in nail-biting fashion, far too close than anyone would have assumed they had it. By the way, we did the show on Friday and spent a lot of time talking about the game and hearing from everybody. I imagine it was a mixed bag on the Bonfire post-game show of people that were still freaking out that it even got that close.
Yeah, I mean, for a game that was that close, it was kind of, a tale of two halves, right? And, I was talking with Schnitzy about it. He's like, that didn't feel like, that close of a game. And I'm like, well, it felt like that close of a game to me.
It was a walk-off.
Yeah, it was a walk-off win. And, a dominant first half, a real shaky second half. Again, consistency is the key. Winnipeg hasn't found it yet this year. You sure hope the second half of the season. They say Labor Day is when the real season starts. Winnipeg fans sure hoping that is true in 2025.
Hey, just before we go, how fired up for you for the annual pilgrimage to Regina in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I was going to say the CEBL championships this weekend too. Sea Bears in the conference finals Friday night. I mean, there is nothing like Labor Day on the prairies, right? That pilgrimage west to Regina is such a special thing. Being young and kind of young, dumb, and crazy to more mature times now when I'm working these games, it really is something special. Being with you and Schnitzy and so many others in the 1930 crew, getting two buses pretty much full. I think we got a couple spots left. Is going to be awesome. The best part of the 1930 crew, Hustler, after our inaugural year last year, is that people just raved about the only thing you got to worry about is you get on the bus. Everything else is taken care of for you. The food, your destination, your good times, your camaraderie with fellow Bomber fans, and guys like me and you to talk shop and that sort of thing. It's going to be an absolute blast. I can't wait for the 1930 crew bus to make that first stop in Brandon. That's when things kind of really start getting rolling.
No doubt about it, dude. Well, listen, I'm sure I'll see you at the Hoops on the weekend, and I will definitely be seeing you the following week as we get out there, folks. Hit the 1930crew.com if you want to grab one of those last couple spots on with us. And DB, in the meantime, have a great week covering both the Hoops and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as they head to Montreal, and we'll catch up soon. Thanks for doing this, buddy.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks, Hustler. Good talking to you.
You know where to find them. Bonfire Sports on YouTube. Give a sub over there. Great post-game coverage, pre-game coverage with the big guy Chris Walby and much more from Darrin Bauming over there. All right, Ken's going to join us in just a minute. Our next visit to Princess Auto Stadium will, of course, be the sold-out Banjo Bowl. Princess Auto, proud sponsors of your Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the home of the blue and gold, Princess Auto Stadium. Of course, Princess Auto headquartered in Winnipeg, founded right here in Winnipeg and now coast to coast, but with 3 Manitoba locations to serve you. Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and of course out in Brandon for our friends in Westman. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete that project on your list or start something new waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see him in store or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. I mentioned last week how happy I was for everyone at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge to be back up and running after a summer marred by evacuations due to the wildfires. I was just checking the gram on the weekend, and our pal Brody Jackson was out there, and just great to see Pitt and the family and everyone welcoming guests back to Aikens Lake. Aikens, of course, a world-class fly-in fishing lodge where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. And as incredible as the world-class fishing is, the world-class hospitality from the Aikens team and the Trent family is even better. Listen, it's been a tough year, missing a month of business. They're still pushing hard until about the midway point of September. So if you're thinking about maybe getting out in the water before the season is over, go to aikenslake.com. Make sure to tell them that you heard about them from Winnipeg Sports Talk. They'll hook you up with a 10% discount. aikenslake.com. And as well on all your social channels, see what's going on over at Aikens Lake, at Aikens Lake. And hey, fellas, if you need to up your menswear game as we get into fall, head on down to F Apparel, Winnipeg's #1 spot for custom men's clothing. Custom suits starting at just $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the biggest and best selection of menswear accessories in town. Had a lot of weddings this summer so far, still more to come. If you are getting married or in a wedding party, make sure to talk to the fellas at F about a special discount when you and the boys get your suits for the big day at F Apparel. They're at 190 Smith Street downtown. You can find out more information online and make an appointment to come in for a fitting at F, that's EPHapparel.com. All right, it's Wiebe time, a little early in the week, and this is a very familiar sight for those of us that have connected with Ken throughout the summer. On location at the Tamarack Golf Tournament, where I would imagine that you have been grinding out all weekend long. Ken, welcome back to the program. How are things out at Clear Lake?
Andrew, great to be with you. Yeah, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood as usual here. A day off from play after 4 consecutive rounds, 2 practice rounds, 2 main rounds. Unhappy to report the putter has been letting me down a little bit, Andrew. This is not a new development, but I need a little more work here. I hit 10 greens yesterday and managed to shoot 80. 10 greens in reg and, shot 90. So I wish I had shot 80. But 5th seed in the 7th flight, ready for match play action beginning tomorrow afternoon. So am I also happy to report, though, that players in my group, I always say my job is to make the people around me feel better about their own game, Huss. Ron Cornell won the medal. He is the medalist of the Tamarack. He was in our group. Tidy first couple of 2 rounds. He's the top seed in the championship flight. My housemate here, Darrin Ritchie, also on the championship flight, is the 12th seed, and Jason Falk is the 6th seed in the 3rd flight. So unfortunately, I was the high man of the group, but we had 2 incredible days, and yeah, just a ton of fun. As you know, it's one of the great events in Manitoba here. Tons of fun, and the Fowlers are kind enough to have me allow me to stay in their place. With Darren's son Nolan is playing in Germany again this year, so it's a great setup.
I have to ask you,
yeah, buddy,
about so now it is match play. Is it one and done? Like you got to move on to survive?
You're guaranteed 2 matches. So there is a consolation side, but you're guaranteed 2 matches. If obviously, if you win your first, you go on the A side. If you lose your first, you go on the consolation side, and then it becomes a win or go home situation. We've had that in the past here, but it's going to be tons of fun here. And yeah, like I said, they had the banquet last night. It's a fun event with it's just a tremendous 10 days or whatever it ends up being for folks who come. And a bunch of first timers, and they're just blown away by how much fun it is.
Big week for golf in the province.
Indeed.
With the Tamarack happening out west, and of course the Manitoba Open here. And I guess your goal is to play well enough to be unavailable to be back to take in the Manitoba Open. But tell you what, this is going to be really fun. Eric Comrie teeing it up, representing the Winnipeg Jets. He kind of follows a number of previous Jets that have gotten in on a sponsor's exemption. And the other sponsor's exemption that I know everyone at Breezy Bend is going to be really excited about. Braxton Kuntz, 4-time Manitoba amateur champion, coming off performances at the Canadian Am and the Olympic Club in U.S. and the U.S. Open, U.S. Amateur, making his professional debut. I just got some breaking news. Former Golfer of the Year, J-Mac, Justin McDonald, on the bag for Brax at the event. Listen, for a local golfer that has done so much, one of the most decorated that our province has produced in a long, long time.
Yep.
I can't imagine a better way to start your pro career than doing it on your home track.
Yeah, no doubt, Huss. I had the pleasure of teeing it up with Braxton last summer at Rossmere as part of the Golf Manitoba Media Day. And let's just say I was blown away by how well he hit it. And just a fantastic human being, a great player, and what an unbelievable experience he would have had. Haven't had a chance to talk to him about it yet. I'm sure Mike McIntyre will. He'll be handling things for the Freep this week coming up. It's an event we both love. We've covered it for a long time, more than 2 decades here. So Braxton playing in his first pro event at a course he could not be more comfortable with us, right? So that's a great deal for him. A lot of course knowledge at a place where, inside knowledge will be helpful. And I think he's just going to soak in the experience and, get ready for what will be a fun professional career. Nice week for AC last week, Huss too. didn't have the greatest Saturday, but still, I think it was a top 30 performance at his last DP Tour event. It just and for our comrade, had a chance to chat with him last week, Huss, after the announcement was made, and he's fired up to get going. I mean, this is a guy who absolutely loves golf. He's incredibly passionate about it. I think he said one of the most favorite things he likes to do in the world. And he's pretty sharp. He said his cap is just above 3 right now. And Huss, he's just back from an unbelievable trip to Ireland where he played Portrush and Royal County. This is a beauty, Huss. I sent Eric a note after the interview. I said, do you happen to have any photos of yourself playing? And this is just the kind of guy he is. Great flex, an unintentional flex. Sends me a shot from Royal County down. Only one of the nicest courses in the planet. And I think they played Portrush right before the.
I think a few of the guys are out there. Morrissey was out there, I know.
Mark
I think Shifley was there.
They were together, yeah. I think I want to say Josh's brother was with them, but I'm not 100%.
Yeah, he was for sure. I saw him
that was the foursome. So he's fired up. This is a guy who loves golf. He's played a lot of nice courses, and he's just fired up to soak in the experience, Huss. I mean, he'd be a great guy to be mic'd up, right? I mean, Eric would be the kind of guy that you'd love to get, not just the walk and talks that they've been trying to do on the broadcast. I think you should get, again, we've been suggesting a lot of advice for the last while. Get Eric Comrie mic'd up, maybe not for the first round, because there's probably going to be a little bit of element of nerves for the first one or whatever else. But he's the kind of guy who's got the gregarious personality. I think he's going to have a blast interacting with fans throughout the event, and just wants to soak it in. I mean, Huss, we always hear it, rock stars want to be hockey players, musicians want to be golfers, and vice versa. So I'm guessing that it's going to be a really fun event from him. He's going to soak it in, but he's also, Huss, he's even as nice of a guy Eric is, he's a competitive guy by nature. So I think he's going to want to see if he can give Dylan Sandberg a bit of a run for them. Maybe, give him a little bit of a run for his money as the low jet in the sponsor exemption category. So
yes, as Donnie Boy says, Comrie needs to beat plus 10. That is the mark for the first two rounds.
Yes,
certainly you'd love to make the cut, but probably a bit of a tall ask considering just how good these players are. I'm with you on your idea to mic Eric Comrie up at the Manitoba
round
Open.
2.
We need the K&R YouTube screen of Kenny mic'd up at the Tamarack if people really want some entertainment. It'll be completely G-rated. Don't worry about that.
For sure.
But there won't be a lot of dead air. I'll just tell you that much because I played with you and I know you're in constant conversation with your golf ball, your clubs, people around you, the course.
Myself, exactly.
Well, definitely.
The patrons. I'll see someone 3 fairways over. Oh, hey, there's Kevin Pratt, my college roommate. There he is. There he is. 2 fairways over. There's my buddy Joe Kim. Joe Kim here. Hey, what's going on, Joe?
Oh,
that's amazing.
Hey,
amazing stuff.
Listen, let's pivot over to Jets for a minute. Obviously, not a lot going on right now, but Ken, I would be lying as someone that does this show every day, as I look into the chat and people are talking about Jets topics, even if there's not a lot breaking news.
I feel like I know where you're going here,
that there wouldn't
Andrew.
be a raising level of angst that we have not had any news about Kyle Connor and a contract extension for KFC. What are you hearing? Where are we at right now? And I'll just ask you, at what point, if something isn't done, would it be time for maybe callers getting a little tight?
Huss, I personally would not be nervous until about February 20th or so. I mean, I'm not going to say March 1st, but I'm certainly not going to say September 1st or September 28th. Or again, follow the tea leaves here, folks. The Colonel is a very patient individual, right? This is a guy who, last time he needed a contract, it took almost until October. I believe he sat out the entirety of training camp, signed the day before the last preseason game, and went out and had one of his best seasons as an NHL player. So obviously it's different this time because he has a contract and he will be there for the start of training camp, but he's not in a rush to get things done. That is 100% accurate, but he's also not in a rush to get to July 1st. I mean, Kyle doesn't let things bother him. He shows up to work. He is ready to play. You can mark him down for 30 and you can probably mark him down for 40. Coming off a 97-point season, the best of his career. I expect him to have I expect him to challenge 100 points again. And Kyle has the type of sniper ability that he can be a 50-goal threat. So all of those things considered, of course, if you're a Jets fan and if you're the Jets, you would like to get the deal done prior to October 9th. But the impetus to get him signed is not in the threatening territory until later in the year. I've used the David Pasternak example. I think he signed in early March that year, and the Bruins were about to, I guess he didn't know it at the time, but things have gone a little bit sideways for the Bruins since that extension was signed. And again, Frank does a great job of reporting us, Saravelli. Of course, the Detroit Red Wings would be interested in a 97-point player. Come on. I mean, I'm not knocking the reporting here. What I am saying is that, yes, someone from Michigan who still summers in Michigan, who has friends, one of his best friends in the world is Dylan Larkin, the captain of the Red Wings. They better be interested, as will 31 other teams be interested in Kyle Connor if he gets to unrestricted free agency. But as I was saying, with other examples, I expect Kyle Connor to sign his contract with the Jets at some point. I don't know what. The crystal ball doesn't say the date. Kyle's a patient guy. I don't think he's nervous about getting it done, but I think he also, too, when you're looking at long-range security, there would be benefits for him to locking in at a number, even with the numbers going up, as he gets closer to training camp as well. But he's not going to be in a hurry to sign. He wants big dollars as a free agent. He's 29 years old, ready to cash in on the biggest contract of his career. And I expect him to do so. I expect him to do so with the Jets also. But this is something that I don't think we should be doing. We're going to be doing the weekly watch, but I don't think we should be surprised if this goes on for a little bit longer here. But that doesn't mean that it's in any danger.
I'm with you too. I will start getting a little nervous if this gets into November. And not that.
No, that's fair.
And basically because of what happened last year.
Sure.
Here's the thing. What if he doesn't have a deal and he's having an unbelievable season? He's going to get 45 or maybe 50 goals this year, and the team's doing really well, and they can't get it done. The one thing that this organization I don't think can afford to do is have a repeat of one of their top players leaving for nothing at the end of the season. And that is going to be something that, of course, increases the urgency for the Jets one way or the other to get clarity on this situation.
No, and again, Huss, that's totally fair. But if the Jets are one of the top 3 seeds in the West, are you feeling the same way at the deadline? They should trade and not take your best swing at it.
Yeah, probably.
Would you be feeling that way?
Yes, I think I would. In that, because let's face it, think of where this team is right now with the age of the players that are going on. If the same thing happened, you got to the second round and then Kyle Connor walks, unless we see massive development from some younger players that would presumably be able to go in and fill that role, and to me, that is a huge if.
Right.
I just think the step back would be so significant without Connor in the mix that, look at Colorado last year. And frankly, and Carolina. They didn't use him as that's a top team. They had a very good chance of winning. They ended up turning him around for Stankoven and 2 picks. And I bet they're very thankful they did that, moving forward. So I think the worst case scenario for the Winnipeg Jets would be losing Kyle Connor for nothing. And, as much as it would be a tough pill to swallow, I think that if it looked like that was the way that it was going to go, I think it's incumbent on the general manager to make a move before that happens.
Well, I would just counter Huss that, it's easier for Colorado to make that move because they put a banner up 3 years ago. If you're a franchise looking to put your first banner up, I don't know. I totally understand that viewpoint, Huss, but I also don't know how do you avoid the revolt if you're moving a 50-goal, 100-point guy in March for futures?
The revolt from who? The player?
From the fan base.
The room?
If you're moving. Well,
I
both.
think the fan base would understand more than the guys in the room would.
Well, but that's what I mean. Your goal is to win. Your banners fly forever, right? I know it's part of the risk is you sometimes don't get it done. Look at the Leafs, right? They rolled with Marner.
It's highly likely you don't get it done, and that's what I mean.
Well, no, exactly. But again, trying to win means sometimes expiring contracts leave. I mean, if you're going to tell me that there's a deal out there for someone that can help the Jets in their top 6 right now, then of course you have to consider it. But anyways,
there's no Kyle Connor trade that makes you better now.
Well, of course, exactly.
I'm not expecting that to happen.
Well, no, but this is what I mean. You just said you talked about the age of the core. I mean, 32 for Hellebuck and Scheifele. You're trading a 29-year-old point-a-game player who's one of the best goal scorers in the NHL and a top 5 scorer. I mean, that's a both sides of the coin are tough. I totally get it. But anyways, I don't expect Kyle Connor to be traded. I expect him to be signed. But again, that's up to Kyle Connor and Kevin Cheveldayoff and Kyle's representatives to find a landing point. And to your point, Kevin Cheveldayoff has said this countless times, dating back to Patrick Laine. If those players perform at that level that requires them to be paid an exorbitant amount, they're happy to pay that amount, right? I mean, they've shown that they're willing to, and again, we understand some of these deals look like team-friendly deals down the road, but I expect them to make their best offer to Kyle Connor, and I expect them to, eventually sign it. But again, it's up to Kyle. Kyle's a private guy. He's not out there screaming from the rooftops or having his agent have a bunch of leaks saying he's unhappy and I'm not going to sign in Winnipeg. I would just say this. It's sort of, to me, apples to oranges. Nikolai Ehlers kind of showed his card, unintentionally or not, Huss. He showed his cards the year before when I asked him at the exit meetings the year before last year when he sort of gave a lukewarm answer. And again, I applauded his honesty at the time, but to me, that was a sign that I think he probably was going to let things play out. Like Kyle Connor has never gone out and said, I want to get to unrestricted free agency. Ehlers didn't say it in so many words, but he sort of left enough breadcrumbs to suggest that a long-term extension was kind of unlikely. Again, actions are ultimately what matters, but we're also trying to decipher the words, right? That's part of our job. So I don't expect him to be a distraction if it leaks into the season. But again, it'll be a storyline that we're all watching with keen interest for sure.
Okay, let me hit you with this scenario, and it's one that I hope doesn't happen. But, they're meeting with his agent through training camp. Not much happens. Get into the season, and Kevin Cheveldayoff goes to their guys and say, guys, this is a huge organizational decision, and we need to have clarity one way or the other. So here's our best offer. Can this get it done? They go back and forth. And it apparently, Connor's agent says, you know what? Considering what's at the cap, I think we're going to do with is what's in our right and, let this play out and see where it goes. At which point Kevin Cheveldayoff says, okay, there's a high likelihood that at some point we're going to have to trade this asset. Let's just say this is in early November. Do you think the return on a Connor trade is significantly different earlier in the season as it would be at the deadline? I could almost make the argument that closer to the deadline, you might be able to get more for the player just because of how things get often inflated, especially with a player like that that's available. And the positive is that you have him for an extra 3 months and he does everything else that, he does for you. But at the same time, I do wonder what that uncertainty and that, because this is going to be a huge story throughout the year when your best offensive player is unsigned. Just thoughts on that. If they were going to do that, is it something that they would look to do earlier, or like Kevin Cheveldayoff has been more often than not, very patient in waiting for the right time to strike?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't expect him to abandon that patience plan, Huss, but yeah, I mean, it's a fair question. I mean, look at the Colorado example is a great one because they did it early enough to integrate the player coming in. That also opened up the door for the secondary move, right? And for Carolina, but then Carolina also had time to integrate Stankoven at the deadline. So in terms of trying to, dictate what the value is, it depends on team's needs at the time, how the Jets are playing, how the team trying to acquire him is playing. What we know is that deadline spark action, right? Which is why around the deadline, the numbers are inflated. But Huts, the kind of wild card of this time around is that with it being kind of the Gavin McKenna year, first rounders are kind of in higher demand. So some teams won't want to be dumping their first round pick in November versus you'll know more in March about, if you're a high lottery pick or a non-playoff team or a contender, right? So I don't have a great answer for you on that one, but excuse me. Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know. I think usually the deadline spars the greatest action, but if you're the Jets and you get to the road where you don't see, if you get to the point of no return, you probably want to make the deal a little bit earlier when maybe more teams are available, but there's also a finite number of teams that can fit the player's number in, right? That's the other part. Even though Kyle is on a very, very nice contract right now, it's still $7.1 or $7.2 million. So not a ton of teams are moving equal value or have the room to take on a $7 million player earlier on in the year. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I have a hard time envisioning a Kyle Connor trade under any circumstances other than, a bunch of injuries to key core players and the Jets are, either a fringe team or a non-playoff team. But again, I expect the extension to come before this, making all of this hypothetical, but I understand why the hypothetical is important because it's, like we said, this is much like Ehlers was the biggest storyline last year. Kyle Connor's future is a massive storyline. Again, obviously the Taves storyline is a big one also, but in a different way, right? So I've said this before. I think if Jonathan plays well and he's healthy, I think he'll want to sign another deal with the Jets. But Jonathan's 37 years old and near the end of his career, whereas Kyle is kind of entering his prime in a lot of ways, even though he's been a highly productive player for a long time.
Ken Weave's with us live from the Tamarack, where he'll be competing tomorrow. I'm sure I encourage all of you guys to get online and follow him hole by hole throughout his throughout the event.
They do have live scoring going.
I know. That's why I'm telling people to check
we should
it
have
out.
An IG live going here.
What time is your tee off?
You should have the show on location. 2:45. Unfortunately, just the tail end of the show. But if I'm fortunate enough to win Thursday, I would be playing at I think 1:15. So we'd have a lot better time of getting some early results.
Live scoring updates throughout the show
from
here.
The Manitoba Open and the Tamarack. Let's go. Let's go.
WST. I see Larry waiting until the deadline is scary business. I mean, there's a lot of scary business when you're talking about a player of the caliber of Kyle Connor and his importance to the team. One more for you on the way out, and we've talked a lot about the glut of defensemen that will be going to training camp. What do you think the number one battle on the blue line is in camp? Is it for a spot in the top 6, or is it simply for a spot on the roster?
Well, that's a great question, Huss. I mean, I do think that you've had a lot of them today. I'm going to tell you. I mean, I'm on holidays, but I'm doing my best to give props when props are required here. And I mean, again, it's the beauty of training camp is sometimes there's curveballs before. Even like last year, we anticipated Stanley and Heinola being right in the middle of everything, and then before day 2 of training camp, both of them were basically almost out of the mix, or one of them was definitely out of the mix in Heinola, and Stanley had to kind of wait until, a couple weeks into camp before he was getting into games. So, yeah, I mean, this is the beauty of hockey. Like us, these guys know they're in a battle. If there's not a trade for Heinola available before camp, then, the Jets will be waiting and rolling the dice and kind of hoping that somebody has an injury that requires the urgency level to rise to up the offer for Heinola, right? I mean, of course, Heinola could come in there and steal the job. That's, it's a possibility, even if it looks more like a remote one, but that's sort of where they're at. And, we know the Jets have depth on the back end. We know they're not carrying 9 defensemen. So you're trying to maximize your assets while not leaving yourself at risk if there's an injury or two in training camp. So it's a great question. And, the answer will be determined by the players competing for those jobs, right? I mean, that's the beauty of it, is that as much of the speculation, and we all do our mock charts, depth charts, and this is who's going to play with who. The beauty is that the players get to decide it. Yes, we know that one-way contracts, while not the only factor, are sometimes a determining factor, but the Jets have also rolled the dice and lost a couple of defensemen on waivers. And, I assume they don't want that to be the case again, but if they're not getting any offers for those players, then, you're not just going to hold on to a distressed asset to say you didn't lose a guy on waivers. So, yeah, I mean, there's lots of competition. top 4 is basically set, and then it's up to the rest of the players to sort things out. Like I said, from the beginning, I think Luke Schenn is the 5th guy right now. I mean, Colin Miller obviously has something to say about that. And then too, the best battle we know is for the 3rd left defenseman. And then right now, Hayden Fleury for me would be in the driver's seat based on his playoff. But we've also known that Logan Stanley's had a long leash, and if he has a great summer, I mean, he knows what's at stake for him. You know, they brought back the guy that took his job last year in the playoffs. And, you know, if you want to win that job back, you got to beat the player out. I mean, or show enough to show that you're going to be ahead of them. I mean, Huss, I don't think we're going to a platoon situation like we see in Major League Baseball, but the Jets do have the option of, obviously, they're different styles of players. Depending on opponent, you could roll certain ways. But we also know that with a condensed schedule, you're going to probably want to get all 7 or 8 D regular work. So that's always the balance. I mean, last year the Jets wanted to carry a 22-man roster, and they couldn't do it because they had injuries from the very beginning, and they couldn't really roll with it and accrue as much cap space as they wanted to. And we also, as we've said from the beginning, Elias Solomonson can throw the biggest wrench into this by having a strong training camp and, you know, sort of usurping someone on the depth chart. But the other part is maybe Colin Miller moves to the left side, and, you know, maybe he's competing on both sides, right and left, for a third pairing job.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of a platoon situation in the third pair right side. Like I'm not expecting, even if Luke Schenn is in that opening night lineup, that he's going to be an everyday player for the Winnipeg Jets. And I think
he's been one for a long time, Huss, in this league.
Yeah, well, for sure. But I mean, even in the playoffs, we saw him sit out at times. So
right.
I mean, if
he also
that's
had cracked
the case,
ribs, though. He had 2 cracked ribs.
Yeah. Listen, I just what I'm saying is that, I mean, a player at that age with the other players that you do want to keep in the mix, I think we probably see Miller, maybe not as much as Schenn, if that's the way that it starts. And what would be interesting is if they like the toughness and whatnot that Schenn brings in, whether maybe Logan Stanley is a guy that get some opportunity, because when Schenn is out of the lineup, maybe he goes in for Fleury, and that is something that I guess we'll see how it all shakes out. But for me, I mean, I guess at the start of training camp, it's about making the team, and we'll be seeing who's able to stick around on that opening day roster amongst the glut of NHL signed defensemen, and that's before we even get to Elias Salmonson. Kenny, great stuff as always. Good luck in your matches. Everyone here at WST will be pulling for you to steamroll through the 7th division at the Tamarack. And we will be giving updates on the program. By the way, did you see the chip by Scotty Scheffler yesterday?
We did, yes.
Do that tomorrow.
Unreal.
Do that. Yeah. There's my advice.
Yes,
for you.
I would love to. And I do have to say props to the grounds crew, the maintenance staff at Clear Lake. The course has been fantastic. It's been quite a bit of rain the last week or several here, and it's greened up nicely. And I mean, folks have seen the pictures I've been posting on X and Insta. The course is just in tremendous shape, and just got to get the DI advice, the 1-2 follow through going, and then we're going to be cooking here. You know, as you know, my game is made for match play, because the triple bogeys that have been getting in my way only cost me 1 hole. They don't cost me 3 or 4
They don't
strokes,
blow up 18 on you.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
Pretty good. All right. Well, keep refreshing DT's tour habits, Twitter feed. Get some of those tips and go out there and have some great rounds and have some fun. Thanks for doing this, buddy. And we will miss you at Breezy over the course of these next few days. But great weekend for golf in the province. You have a good one, and all the best.
Yeah, soak it all in, my friend. Have a great day here, and cheers to all here.
Appreciate it. There's Ken Wiebe. And yes, we will be live at Breezy throughout the rest of the week. Hoping to have Eric Comrie join us live tomorrow, which should be a lot of fun. And more from the tournament as we get ready to welcome the best of the PGA Tour Americas to Winnipeg. Tournament officially starts on Thursday. You can check out ManitobaOpen.com for more information on that. We'll touch on that later on in the program, but we do have a special guest coming up in just a minute. But big thanks to our friends at Royal Sports for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. You all know that Royal Sports, family owned and operated for over 50 years, is the ultimate sports superstore for Winnipeg fans. Now, everything is gearing up for the hockey season. Tons of Jets gear, lots of new stuff coming in, all the jerseys. If you want to get a Jonathan Taves or a Velarde or a Sandberg, now they've got new deals. Royal Sports has you covered. You want to get Bomber gear in time for the big Labor Day Classic and the Banjo Bowl. Royal Sports has so much, including many exclusives that you won't find anywhere else. And as we all get ready to draft our teams for fantasy football season and look ahead to NFL kickoff in September, Royal Sports has the biggest and best collection of NFL merchandise, so you can gear up with your favorite team while you're still 500 and at 0-0. Pop by Royal Sports. You got to see it for yourself. 750 Pembina Highway. And check them out on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops, sale information, and keep your eyes out for another award-winning tent sale coming up right after the Labor Day long weekend. We got Blue Jays action. We got CFL action going on right now this week. And if you're heading out to watch the game, no better place to do that than your local Boston Pizza. Tons of great treats available. New stuff on the summer menu, including those cherry cola beef sliders that I've been enjoying, and all the classics, including those ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, and gourmet pizzas. Whether you're watching the Jays playoff run or the Bombers back in action and the rest of the CFL, Boston Pizza is your number one spot to get together with the gang for the big game. And if you're staying at home, you can always get it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, just before we continue the show, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, very special guest joining us now on Winnipeg Sports Talk. The Women's World Cup of Rugby begins in England on Saturday, and the lone Manitoban representing Canada wearing the red and white, Emily Tuttosi, joins us now from England ahead of their opener Saturday at 11:30. All right, this is going to be fun. Guys, we are heading overseas right now to get ready for the Women's World Cup, and we have a Manitoban on Team Canada representing our nation coming up. Canada's first game is on the 23rd of August, 11:30 a.m. You can check it out on TSN. Let's welcome in Emily Tuttosi, the lone Manitoban representing Canada at the Women's World Cup. Emily, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me. Yeah, here in York, England. We landed a couple days ago and are prepping to play Fiji on Saturday, as you mentioned.
That's amazing. You know, we'll get into the tournament coming up in a minute, but I'm so interesting. You're the only Manitoban on the club. You know, I remember in high school, women's rugby was just getting going at a high school level. Give us just a bit of your background about where you grew up in the province and how you got involved in the sport.
Yeah, I grew up in Souris, Manitoba, and I gratefully had a youth rugby program to join. So I've been playing rugby since I was like 7-8 years old. And from there, just kind of said yes to different opportunities that came. Represented Souris school all the way through graduation, Westman, Manitoba, starting when I was 14. And then my journey took me to represent the Calgary Dinos at university for my 5 years. And then I took an even bigger leap and jumped across the ocean. And I've been playing in the Premiership over there for 7 years, going on 8. I'm signed again for the Exeter Chiefs after the World Cup. And in that time, I first was on the national team representing Canada at the U20 levels for 3 years in university, where I also got my first couple caps for the national team, senior women's team. It took a few years to get back on it, but now this is my second World Cup.
And I mean, obviously the World Cup in most sports is the absolute pinnacle, but just before we get to that, playing at the youth sports level, was professional rugby? I mean, at what point did you think that this might be something more than just a sport you love to play as you got an education?
That's actually a really funny question, because I only found out that there was even like Team Canada when I was in high school. My coach Brian Yon had burnt me DVDs of some of the World Cup games. So that's kind of how I found out that women played for Canada. And then when I was finishing up university, I was going across to play. Well, I wanted to play more rugby. My coach, Simon Shee, was like, hey, I have a connection you could see. And at that time, it was, you're still working fully alongside training fully. But I was just so hungry to play rugby that I was like, hey, we'll give it a shot. And I originally thought it'd be for a year or two, and then I might have to be a real adult and like get a proper job, and rugby might not be it. And thankfully that's not been the path at all. So it wasn't really until I was over playing in England that I was like, whoa, this whole professional thing like could happen. And it has evolved in my time over there.
I mean, women in sport and opportunities for women has been a big topic over the last decade or so. How has opportunities for women in rugby grown? Because it certainly seems from, casually following it that the sport continues to grow, and a ton of the growth is happening on the women's side.
Yeah. And I think, well, there's been like different spurts of growth. And I think the Canadian 15s team getting silver in 2014 at that World Cup kind of popped it. Then when they got bronze, when sevens was first brought into the Olympic, I think the growth picked up. And since then, well, our team has been sitting second for the last couple years. And I think the buzz has been building. More players are getting more opportunities in different places, whether it is university or jumping over to England or France in the Prem. And I think social media has been like a huge boom. I think people are starting to realize that women are marketable and are worth investing in. And it's been really cool to be a part of and see that there are more opportunities. When I was a young girl, there wasn't near as much of the, if you can see it, you can be it, as there is now. And I think that's a really amazing opportunity for girls that want to pursue rugby.
You mentioned the sevens rugbies, and I can tell you, we have a lot of new fans of that. It was on kind of during our show in the last Olympic Games, and we all got really into the Canadian team and what they were able to accomplish. I've got to ask you, fill us in on the differences from the 15s to the sevens. And I mean, the World Cup players, I wish you were one of them, Team Canada, do the players play both disciplines, or do you sort of focus in and concentrate on just one?
So I think that's actually one of the reasons our team is strong in sevens and 15s, is we do have some athletes that participate in both disciplines, and there are some that stick to just sevens and just 15s. The collaboration between the two programs in the last few years has been huge obviously a lot to balance for some of those athletes, but thankfully we try and have this one squad mentality on the national team, and that is amongst coaches, staff, and players, which is super cool to get to observe and see how it's helped springboard and maintain our growth. But the main differences in the games, 15s, you're looking at an 80-minute game. Sevens, it's 14. Obviously, number of people on the field, 15 players versus 7. I guess what that does is just makes the game a little different. Sevens, sometimes you'll hear that you can make an athlete into a sevens player a little easier because there's more space to run around, whereas 15s is more a bit of a game of chess sometimes to get it to open up for where the space is. Both are super spectator friendly, even if you don't know the games. If you're in a stadium, you cheer when other people cheer. You can get into it without knowing a single rule. It's crazy how many people have been like, I didn't even know it was happening, but it was so exciting, and people are so athletic, and there's such big hits. I think those are some of the main differences. Is just the sevens, you always have a tournament style and you play a couple games a day, whereas 15s, you're looking at one game a week at the international and at the premiership level.
Now, this, of course, upcoming event is the 15th, so it's the full squad, it's the longer matches, and Canada's the number 2 seed going in. I mean, honestly, when I think of rugby powers, I think of some of the European teams and the Aussies and New Zealand, but Heck, we medaled in the sevens, and now we've got a women's team that very much has a chance of getting on the podium, or dare I say, winning it all. Fill us in on, just this team that you'll be a part of, and your chances at doing something special for the country.
Yeah, I think that number 2 seat has not come easy for us. Even since the last World Cup, we had Kevin Rouet, who is currently our head coach, took over as head coach about 6 months prior to the last one. And we went into it, a lot of us, it was our first World Cups, didn't have that many games under our belt. We placed 4th at the last World Cup, kind of fizzled out near the end of the tournament. And I think in the last 3 years since then, it's been a really dedicated group of athletes. And also worth mentioning, there's a squad of 32 here, but there's a greater squad of probably 45 athletes that have worn a Canadian shirt or been on tours or helped build up the robustness of our program in that time. And a couple of years ago, we won the Pacific Four tournament for the first time, which meant beating New Zealand for the first time in program history, which was incredible to be a part of. And then England is ranked number 1. We've come close in some of those matches. And they are obviously the favorites going into a home World Cup. But yeah, it's been an exciting build. And I think we need to be a little more confident than we were last World Cup, but also not look too far ahead. You still have to win each week if you want to be in the game on September 27th.
Well, the big one is coming up starting off Saturday, 11:30 a.m. Winnipeg time. It'll be on TSN, as will the matches, throughout the tournament. You mentioned beating New Zealand. I mean, that is all kind of thought of by most as the power. What was that like for your team to get over that hump? And how does a win like that help you and your teammates going into the opener on Saturday, knowing what you're capable of?
Yeah, it was incredible. I get goosebumps still thinking about it because it was on New Zealand's home soil. It was a tight game right to the end. And I think it definitely showed us, I think sometimes you can get caught being like, oh, well, we just want a close game. We want a close game, when you don't think you're good enough. But we are good enough. And that, I think, also shifted our belief. We've played New Zealand one time since then. We actually tied. So we know that we're up there with the top teams. And I think that's something we need to take into this game is it's not, what happened the last time you played them or the record of our whole team's careers. It's what can the group of 32 players at a World Cup on our squad do against 32 players on any other squad? Also would be a shame not to mention the coaching staff as well. But I think that's the big difference is the belief in the squad and not just happy to be there. We want to compete. And that's why we're here.
If you go the distance, how long does this tournament go? And how many countries are in the World Cup?
So it's a 6-week tournament if you go all the way. And this year got expanded to 16 teams. Previously, it's been only 12. But now the Women's World Cup is set up in 4 pools of 4 teams. Each pool will play a round robin game. And then the top 2 teams come out of each pool for quarterfinals.
And then it's knockout, survive and advance and move on and hopefully get to that gold medal game and bring it home for Canada. Emily, this has been so much fun talking to you. Will you have some friends and family that are heading from Manitoba over to check out some of the World Cup matches?
Yes, there are. There's what's incredible. We really do feel Canada with us whenever we travel. But my brother and sister-in-law and nephew are going to come. My dad is going to come over with his partner. So some home support there. But we do feel it, all the messages or when people are resharing stuff, we feel the buzz. But it's cool because we have the Canadians that are coming over to make a cohort, but also some of us that have lived in England for a while. We have then our new friends and kind of our English family or club supporters that are coming. So it's kind of this interesting hybrid mix. But don't ask me who they're cheering for if we do end up against the Red Roses, because I can't be too sure.
Hey, listen, you can get ready to break their hearts later on in the tournament, but some work to be done before then. Hey, I tell you what, speaking of later on in the tournament, good luck to all of you and your teammates. Cannot wait to see the game on Saturday. And let's hope for an all-time great Canadian performance, and hopefully we can hook up afterwards. You can show off a medal on the program when you're all said and done.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck, Emily. Appreciate you jumping on.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks. That was a really fun conversation. She was a great interview. And I'm even more interested in the World Cup now, knowing that we've got a Manitoban on the squad and wow, the second seed too. I mean, Canada has been getting better as a rugby nation, but I'll tell you what, having our women ranked second in the world going into this is pretty cool. So yeah, check it out, everyone. Saturday, 11:30 a.m. Winnipeg time, game number 1. Fish are on the road for the rest of this week, but are back at home on the weekend. Friday is the Franco-Manitoban night, and then Saturday is the Bark in the Park, where you can bring your pups to the game. Always one of the most fun days of the entire year at the Goldeyes. And get this, the Goldeyes are wearing special jerseys on Saturday with pictures of pets on them. So if you do have a pupper that would like to get out and take in the game with thousands of other pups, go to goldeyes.com, lock in your tickets, get the information on the event, and should be a great time. Saturday again, Bark at the Park at the Goldeyes, 6 o'clock p.m. Saturday night, goldeyes.com/tickets. And of course, 982 base if you got any questions about the upcoming event. We're back at Assiniboia Downs tomorrow night and Wednesday for live racing at the track. No racing tonight, but a week today, August 25th, they will have live racing. But Tuesdays and Wednesdays throughout the year. And we're going late this season, all the way into October, close to Canadian Thanksgiving. So a few extra days of live racing later on in the season. But this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, live racing over at Assiniboia Downs. And gang, we're going to be getting together with our friends at Breezy Bend starting tomorrow for coverage throughout the week of the Manitoba Open. We'll be all over the Bombers and Jets as we normally are. But a great opportunity for us to set up shop and speak with not only some of the players in the event and organizers, but Manitoba's Braxton Kuntz, who's making his professional debut, and of course, Eric Comrie of the Winnipeg Jets, who we hope will hook up with tomorrow on the program. Eric, of course, being the latest in a line of Winnipeg Jets to tee it up in the PGA Tour Americas as a sponsor's exemption. Kids are free throughout the entire tournament. Saturday is family day, where every kid not only is free, but will also get a free hot dog, chips, and drink. And ticket availability is on the website, manitobaopen.com. I can tell you, Breezy Bend has been gearing up for this all year long and looking forward to welcoming many golf fans from around the province for this year's edition of the Manitoba Open. If you want more information on Breezy Bend for next season, go to breezybend.ca. Michael Remis, we do have to get to the Cool Bet lines. We will discuss this Jays game tonight, but another tidy bit of work on the weekend despite falling to the Texas Rangers yesterday. Another Jays series win. And they come into the week with a 5-game lead on the Boston Red Sox, 5.5 games clear of the New York Yankees as the boys just continue to roll.
Yeah, really incredible what we're witnessing from the Jays this season. Max Scherzer making an impact. We're waiting for Shane Bieber to return to the rotation. So very exciting stuff here from the Jays. And Dalton Varsho just returned from injury like a couple weeks ago. He has been absolutely raking. So while, they didn't add a huge bat at the deadline, getting a guy like Varsho, who's known for his defense, now swinging a hot bat, very exciting stuff here. So we are, focused on the Bombers, CFL, but the Blue Jays, number one in the AL East. Not only number one, 5-game lead over the Red Sox in a season where the expectations were not there for the Blue Jays after a disappointing last couple of years. And this could be a really exciting October as we get into the playoffs.
Give me a Jays Milwaukee Brewers World Series. Brewers finally lost for the first time in 2 weeks yesterday. So they look to start a new winning streak in their next game, but they are 8 games clear of the Chicago Cubs right now in the Central Division. If you recall, they were basically tied with the Cubs at the All-Star break. They've been amazing. Big win on the weekend for the Dodgers, sweeping the Padres. They started off that series 1 game back in the NL West. They're now 2 games up in the NL West. The Phillies continue to cruise. Mets won a couple. Did you see the Little League game, the game at the Little League park last night?
I did not, but I did see that Rob Manfred was on saying radical, geographical realignment coming, but they have done a nice job with some of these games in, non-traditional stadiums. They had the NASCAR one that looked cool. Got rained out, and they've had the Field of Dreams, but the Little League one, pretty cool stuff there.
This was neat. And what was so neat was how into it the major leaguers were with the kids. I mean, Julio Rodriguez and Pete Alonso and some of the biggest stars in the game mixing up all day with the kids, sliding down the hill in the field. And, they did a great job of involving some of the kids in the broadcast too. My favorite kid was that Mexican, the kid from Mexico that hit a grand slam and a big comeback win for them. And I mean, this kid was an ace interview in a language that I don't think was his first. It was really, really fun. So well done, Major League Baseball, for that. Feels like that's something that, the National Hockey League could maybe do. It's funny, they don't go to Quebec City. I mean, obviously there's no team in Quebec City. Maybe one regular season game a year in and around the Quebec Pee Wee tournament at that beautiful rink they built in Quebec City might be something really cool. I mean, can you imagine if you had the Habs and the Oilers or the Leafs or, a couple of the bigger Canadian teams, or maybe, the Habs and Pittsburgh and Sidney Crosby being there. I mean, I think there's some real potential to do that. The goodwill generated from what Major League Baseball did yesterday with that event was really, really cool. I
do need to chime in. I'm sure you discussed this on Friday. You talk about goodwill and putting a game in a non-traditional stadium. The CFL kind of going the opposite direction there, telling the Argos they're going to have to play, quote, home games in Winnipeg and Regina. Hamilton, I think you can say makes sense. They're, 2-hour or hour drive. I don't know how far it is. It's a drive, it's right over there. But making, I guess great that we're going to get an extra home game, great for us, but really just giving the middle finger to the Argos fans. I mean, I guess the owners will be getting some money from. I don't know how that works.
I have no idea how that works.
But yeah, and how about, a TSN employee, Luke Wilson, going off on the Board of Governors and then deleting it for that decision. So really interesting stuff. Did you guys talk about that on Friday?
We caught it sort of just at the end, and we really didn't get into it because the reports were just coming out that the Argos were going to be playing these 3 games on the road, one in Winnipeg, one in Regina, and one in Hamilton. And for those people wondering why the hell are they doing this, the World Cup is going to be taking over BMO Field, and it won't be available to the Argos. And listen, I got to admit, I sort of agree with Luke's point. I mean, there's one thing for, the league to want to maximize dollars. It's another thing to have a team basically as a complete second-class franchise, which is seemingly what the Argos are, or at least will be next year, playing some of their quote-unquote home games on the road against the teams in their home buildings. Listen, Luke has had a lot to say this year on a lot of topics, which I think has been great for conversations about the Canadian Football League. And a few people have taken some scuds on social media, but so be it. This was pretty pointed, though, and I can imagine that did raise the ire of, and sometimes with Luke, it's not necessarily what he's saying, but how he says it. That I think maybe he got his wrist slapped a little bit. But I'll tell you what, there's never a dull moment with Luke Wilson on the case. And he did say last week, midweek, that he was done tweeting about the Canadian Football League. And I think that lasted a day, maybe. And the next thing you know, we're reading Toronto Sun articles about what he's up to off the field as well. So, hey, listen, this is a sport and a league that needs as much attention as possible, and a lot of people talking about it, and he has certainly delivered that. And I'm just happy I have no skin in the game other than being a fan of the Canadian Football League to watch it all transpire. But certainly some interesting developments on and off the field in the Canadian Football League. But his point in all of this, which I think is a good one, not only is it a slap in the face to Argo fans, but there are and should be some alternatives in Ontario for a couple games to make happen. He, of course, coaches in the London, I believe, junior football team. And Western, I mean, listen, is it a CFL stadium? No. But could you pull a game off there? Absolutely, especially when you think about what the Argos have been drawing at BMO Field. And what would be more beneficial for the Argos moving forward as a franchise? Getting a bit more money playing road games in Winnipeg and Saskatchewan, or going elsewhere and doing some real serious outreach in some other Ontario markets to try to boost their fan base? I think it's pretty clear. It is the latter, but often money is what makes that final decision, and it's pretty clear that money is behind this, giving the Bombers and the Riders extra road games at home against the Argos next year, thanks to the World Cup.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what you and Jeff have to say on another edition of CFL 110. I'm sure that will come up among a number
it will.
Of other topics, as that's later this week, finalizing the recording time, as we'll be at Breezy Bend, but no shortage of off-field CFL topics has around the league, and I thought that was a pretty interesting one over the weekend.
Couple things I want to get to before the Cool Bet lines. You saw the UFC on the weekend?
I was watching the UFC on the weekend, yes, and I used to love UFC, it's just coming a couple years ago. It's 20 years ago. Now around the 06 when it was, before UFC 100, you knew all the fighters. I find it very hard to keep up with all the fighters. There's fights all the time.
Well, and all the fights. I mean, basically it's every Saturday. There's something
you
going
saw
on in UFC.
the new deal that they signed in the US, which is crazy. What, like $7.7 billion for 7 years.
Yep.
But I did watch the main event, and not the title fight, but the two before, spinning back elbow knockouts in the first round, devastating.
Crazy.
They had to check if these guys were, I want to say, alive. It was devastating, these knockouts. It was crazy. So entertaining fights. And the main event was this Chimaev, the challenger, basically sat on the champion, had him in control for 5 rounds. Duplessis, I don't know, he didn't know how to do takedown defense. The
crazy thing is he's actually very good at that. That's just how good this Chimaev. He apparently is the best pound for pound fighter in the world right now, and I mean, absolutely waxed a guy that had been incredibly successful, winning the belt, defending it. And it's sort of, and I believe this Chimaev is one of these Dagestani dudes, from the line of Khabib.
Yeah, and people say it was a boring fight because he basically sat on him for 5 rounds and really didn't do a ton of damage. But to see a guy have that kind of control and do takedown over takedown, I thought it was really impressive over a champion in Duplessis. So I'm curious what's going to happen next, and the UFC is going to have to try to make entertaining fights with this guy because it is an entertainment business, and these fights where. What George St. Pierre did this all the time, where he'd sit on a guy for 5 rounds and apologize for not knocking the guy out. So I thought his skill was impressive.
Bronstetter afterwards saying that there was there is a sect of people, and I think this is growing after that fight, that after a certain amount of control on the ground, without significant aggression and damage done. To get the guys back up. And certainly that fight is one that will be, that might be taken into consideration when they're talking about this. By the way, Bobby B, what's up, Bob, said, Huss, take those Argos games to Atlantic Canada. That's another great idea. T. Konopali, Bobby Bree, comment of the day. I agree. Like, I think there's a hell of a lot more that they could get out. Maybe not ticket revenue, but more benefits for the Argonauts, the Canadian Football League, than to give an extra game here in Winnipeg and on the prairies. Whether you're doing it in Ontario or maybe a touchdown Atlantic game. I would suggest Quebec City as well. Like, to me, Quebec City is probably the more realistic 10th team in the Canadian Football League, to be perfectly honest. They've been trying Atlantic Canada forever, where they can't get a stadium done. Football is huge in Quebec. It's grown massively. You've got the Laval program that is a consistent powerhouse in youth sports. I think a second Quebec team and a 10th team in the CFO would make a lot of sense. Why not do something in Quebec City? I'm sure we'll touch on that coming up on CFL 110. All right, listen, before we get to the cool bet lines, I've got to bring this up. I was kicking around on Barstool Sports, one of my favorite sites, and Remis, one of the top stories today is, get this, a man pretending to be Justin Bieber tricked the XS nightclub at the Wynn Las Vegas into letting him perform, and everybody fell for it. Long story short, there's a French dude whose Twitter is at Desclose Dylan. And he is a Justin Bieber lookalike, Justin Bieber impersonator. He flew to Vegas early Friday morning and then basically went around Vegas convincing people that he was Justin Bieber. Now listen, that'll get some laughs or whatever on Fremont Street or on the Strip and some people getting pictures. But what is crazy is, like, the Wynn, the XS at the Wynn is one of the biggest nightclubs in Vegas, huge performers. I guess they didn't promote this, but when they found out that this guy who was allegedly Justin Bieber was going to perform, the hosts reached out to their big money contacts and sold tables at an astronomical price, and everybody got scammed by this fake Justin Bieber. There's actually a picture of Charlotte Flair getting a picture with who she thought was Justin Bieber, but it was in fact this guy. There's been another, yes, here's the picture of the fake Biebs. And, some people got fired at XS for getting duped like this. And I was telling you this off air. You said you knew someone that was there on the weekend and saw this?
I was just going through my feed on Sunday night, and yeah, I have a friend who was at Backstreet Boys and then posted after, oh, Justin Bieber at XS. That's how I knew he was there, but I'm laughing that it's the fake Justin Bieber. It reminds me of when you used to watch, like, Maury, when they would bring on, like, celebrity lookalikes of people who pretend to be someone else, and I guess that's still happening in 2025, and people are falling for it. I don't even think this guy looks like that much like Justin Bieber. He just has a shaved head and tattoos.
He copied all of Bieber's tattoos.
Oh, he did? Oh, this guy is ill.
You want to talk about really going all the way for the bit. He's done that, but he just went and copied all of his tattoos. He put the glasses on, he got the short hair, and then went out and did his thing. Yeah, these are people, oh my God, you go clubbing in Vegas and Justin Bieber is performing. No, that's actually a French dude that just looks. They said his singing was okay. Like, it wasn't quite as good as Bieber's, but he got by. And the DJ even has a live pic. This is a picture of me getting duped by a fake Justin Bieber. So be careful when you're out in the streets of Vegas, folks. You never know what's real and what isn't. And you read it. John Rich does the write-up. Great blogger over there. You can check that one out. All right, let's get over to the cool bet lines because we do have... Actually, do we have CFL lines yet? We do. Remis, do you want to do Guess the Lines? I did it with Dusty today. Have you seen them already?
No, I actually haven't.
All right, well, let's do it. Okay, start it off. Winnipeg at Montreal, Thursday night. What do you think the line is?
Okay, Bombers minus 3.5.
Bombers minus 4.5. Pretty close.
Okay.
And listen, that speaks to Montreal's quarterback situation, in a big way, down to Morgan and Cameron Dukes. Elks at Red Blacks on Friday. Feels like a loser leaves town match for these two teams at 3 wins.
Okay, whoa. Hold on. I got sidetracked there. Murray Sizzler says, Backstreet Boys, time to defriend this guy. Whoa. This Backstreet Boys concert at the Sphere is like the most epic Sphere show out there. It takes it to a new level. So, Murray, you got to check yourself there.
And Murray, chances are, you know what, you can do a lot of worse. You can be in a lot of worse places as a straight man than a Backstreet Boys show, because it's like 98% women that are having a hell of a time. So even if you didn't want to go and see the performance, would probably be a good place to just hang out and enjoy yourself. And the Sphere's insane. I would go to literally anything at the Sphere.
I'll say that too. And, Backstreet Boys, when I was younger, when they were just coming out, I was like, screw this, boy bands, blah. Now I'm like, man, these are really great songs that have stood the test of time. Okay?
Timeless. Timeless Backstreet Boys.
Have I ever put on a Backstreet Boys song, in my spare time? Maybe, but probably not. but do I know the words to all of them because I've heard them all a million times? Yes. Anyways, what was the second game that is the CFL?
Well, hey, hold on a second. We'll get to that in a minute. Schickster says, local example, Tate McRae was like 90% women at the show too. I was devastated that I did not know that Tate McRae was coming. But here's the thing, Schickster, and you work at the building, so I will put this to you. I assumed a Tate McRae show would be like 90% female. And then I talked to some younger guys, like hockey player dudes, 22, 23, 24, and they were going to the show like 10 deep with their boys.
What?
Yeah, well, dude, Tate McRae is basically the hottest thing on planet Earth right now. I mean, you want to talk about a pop superstar / sex symbol. She is at the top of the pyramid, at top of the food chain right now. And listen, these guys were very excited to go, and it wasn't because of the rest of the crowd. It was to get Tate. So I was interested. I assumed that it would be a 90+ show, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little less than that. Just from my experience of the amount of dudes I knew, they were like, "Oh yeah, we're going to Tate McRae." Yeah, I did not go to that, but it sounded like the Instagram was popping. I mean, all the pics of it looked like it was a world-class show by a world-class performer.
There have been some great shows this summer at Canada Life Center. Katy Perry here a couple weeks ago, and Tate McRae. My wife actually had never heard of Tate McRae. That's how you know I'm getting old. I mean, I knew she was because she was at the NHL All-Star game. She was on SNL, but my wife's like, someone's telling her she went to, or they were going.
She had half the league with their tongues on the floor when she was out there for that.
Yeah, my wife thought she was a country singer. You hear the name like Tate McRae, I guess. I don't didn't know who it was.
Yeah, that could be like a male country singer.
Yeah, something like that. So here we're sidetracked.
Canada's greatest export right now, Tate McRae. Okay, back to these lines. Edmonton at Ottawa. Loser leaves town match.
Edmonton at Ottawa?
Yes.
Ottawa -2.5.
Ottawa -1.
Okay. Wow. Edmonton getting some respect now with Fajardo.
Yeah, it's a pick'em, actually, I should say. I mean, I guess they've got a juice, but it is a pick'em right now, which actually makes a lot of sense to me. Especially with Drew Brown probably out.
Oh, he's out? Okay, that changed. Yeah, because he went down with the leg injury at the end of that game. Man, I never even got to talk about Crum. I was having such Crum flat. Like, you're sitting
Crum
there
back
like
2.0
again, because remember last time Crum came in? You're like, oh, the Bombers, they're going to destroy Dustin Crum. Who is this guy? You never even heard of him.
It almost happened again.
And he almost ran all over them again. I tweeted out the highlights of that game just because I like doing that sort of thing. Just opening old sports wounds. It's my favorite thing.
BC at Toronto. at BMO Field
Oh.
Saturday afternoon.
BC minus 6.5.
It's only 3.5 at Coolbet
Really?
right now. But I am with you. I think it gets onto the other side of that. So now's a good time to get into BC. It's not getting shorter than 3.5, I'll tell you that much. And then the final game. This is a great week for games. Saskatchewan at Calgary.
Oh, that is a good game. Saskatchewan at Calgary.
Riders' lone loss of the year at home at Mosaic to the Stamps.
Wow. I think Saskatchewan minus 3. No,
Pick 'em.
Oh, pick up. Oh my God, I've been way
Pick
off.
'em. Minus 110 on each side.
I screwed up there.
So we got 2 pick'ems. Bombers minus 4.5. So the
Wow.
Bombers are the biggest favorite on the board right now. And then, of course, BC at minus 3.5. That's all there at Coolbet for you. Updated Grey Cup odds. Saskatchewan numbers dropped to plus 225. They are the favorite. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are plus 325. Still the favorites to win the East. Calgary's plus 375. Montreal is 5-1. And what's interesting, the Bombers last week, Reem, were plus 950. They won and yet are now plus 1250. So if you've been waiting, if you have faith in the Bombers and you've been waiting for a good time to get in on Winnipeg, this is the biggest number we've seen on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in a very long time. Plus 1250. BC's 13-1. Argo's 22-1. Ottawa 30-1. Edmonton 60-1. Those are your Grey Cup odds right now over at Coolbet. Tonight, we do have Blue Jays baseball, and it is Paul Skeens Day. That's right. The Blue Jays are in Pittsburgh to take on the lowly Pirates. They have exact opposite records. The Blue Jays come into tonight the top team in the AL at 73-52. The Pirates come in as the bottom team in the Central Division, 52-73. However, when you're talking about Paul Skeens, he can be the great difference maker, and the Pirates are actually a very slight minus 111 favorite over the Blue Jays. Jays at minus 105. And if you look at the pitching props, Paul Skeens, a strikeout master, over 5.5 strikeouts is minus 172. Over 6.5 plus 134. I think he only had 4 in his last outing, but had, I believe, 8 in 3 of his previous 4 starts after that. Bottom line is the Pittsburgh Pirates are not worth walking across the living room to grab your remote control to turn on unless Paul Skeens is pitching, which means that if you're going to catch any of this series, I would suggest doing it tonight as they go. And I will say this, the Pirates stink. Their ballpark is amazing. One of the most beautiful ballparks in the major leagues.
Oh, yes. PNC, that is certainly up there. And Gaussman's no slouch either. The Jays pitching, proven to be solid. And yeah, it's Monday. No live racing tonight at the Downs. So I will be dialed. No CFL since Bombers are on Thursday. So I will be dialed in. I did have a lot of time in the last week while I was off. So I was doing some daily fantasy and some props for MLB. So, hey, it's the only game in town right now. And the Blue Jays looking to add on to their lead in the AL East.
Other matchups, the Cardinals are in Miami against the Marlins. Marlins minus 147 favorite. This is actually kind of funny. You know how Dusty and Eric, they always had Creed Tuesday on their show?
Yes.
And they would play Creed?
Sure.
Well, they had a thing that if the Marlins won the night before, they would always play the Marlins Fly Forever, that Creed song that they did for the Marlins.
Okay.
Well, now, tonight, the Marlins are playing. They've put together some sort of a lock shot bet in, and they need the Marlins to win so they can play The Marlins Will Fly on the Nielsen show tomorrow as they get ready for Creed in Edmonton. Is Creed coming here?
No, we missed.
Are they doing like a big Canadian tour or something like that?
They hit a lot of the cities, but not here. I was disappointed to see that we were not getting the Summer of '99 tour.
You were legitimately
No.
like I never got this. I thought the whole Creed resurgence was all people being kind of smart ass and like ironic. Oh, I love Creed ironically. And then now apparently they're back and they're doing big shows and everyone wants to see them.
I hated Creed when they were like new. Like I thought they were so lame. I was like, I like real rock, like Metallica or Creed. They suck. And now, I don't know. I think it was that video of the halftime at the Cowboys Thanksgiving that went viral.
Yes.
And you're like, man, this band is really epic. And I think that also there's not a lot of new rock that's being like pushed to be popular. And you're like, maybe we didn't give this band the respect that it deserved when it came out. And the Texas Rangers had Creed as their theme song when they won the World Series.
That's
and
right.
Scott Stapp, like he had, personal issues, and he seems to got together. The band's all still alive, which you can't say that for a lot of bands anymore. And yeah, they have a lot of. I listened to I never put them on when they were popular. But yeah, I listened to Creed at Sirius Unplugged from last year, 2 years ago. It was amazing. And I listened to Human Clay. Great. And
Human Clay.
Yeah. This is the summer of 99 tour. Daughtry, Seven Dust, Big Wreck, and Mammoth. That's Wolfgang Van Halen. And they're in the Canadian portion. I'm looking at the list here. Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, all sold out. Also, they couldn't sell. They could probably sell out here. Unfortunate that we couldn't get a Creed show. I know I would have brought a crew
I'm
to
not
Creed.
upset. I'm not upset. I'm upset that I missed Tate McRae. Not upset that I am missing Creed. I will tell you. I will be honest on that.
Well, you could go on the summer of '99 Creed cruise in April. Maybe I'll look into that.
Yeah, the cruise. That's right, the cruise. You know what? I don't think I'd go on the Creed cruise, and I've never been on a cruise.
Yeah.
Does the Jericho cruise still happen?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say the Juggalo cruise, but
No, that's my ultimate dream. Although I'm too old to do it now. To go to the gathering of the Juggalos.
Yeah,
in the summer.
Okay, it's called the Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager. The next one, November 7 to 11, 2026. So
Okay, well, maybe I'll plan for next year. Maybe I will plan for next year.
Yeah, it was in January, Miami to Puerto Plata. And I've never been on one of these like theme party cruises. I went on a cruise with my family like 20 years ago, but I haven't been on one since. So one of these theme cruises. On one.
Yeah, but I've just the thought of like a couple thousand wrestling fans all being on a boat and having wrestling and rock music. It actually sounds pretty damn fun. Wow, we've gotten sidetracked today. I did see waiters asking in chat, did Huss watch the Taylor Swift interview on New Heights yet? Of course I did. And so have millions and millions of other people. It was great. Remember when I said over a year and a half ago that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce was the greatest love story of our generation, and all of you laughed or thought I was being unserious? Who's laughing now? I mean, how many movies are going to be made? Like, Hallmark might have to start a new channel for Kelce Taylor Swift spin-off stories. Just one of the most heartwarming things you've ever seen. And I will say this to you, if you're a romantic, if you believe in love, you should really watch New Heights, because for all those idiots that said that this was staged, this was all just for showbiz, you can all eat your words now. And I do think that Taylor Swift touch might bring us another Super Bowl this year in Travis's final season in the year. That's the only way that it can end. And everyone that was wanting that proposal, I think the proposal probably will happen before. I don't think it'll be done on the field as the ticker tape flies and the confetti drops. But I do think it'll happen beforehand. I still have a bet with somebody that they have a child by week 6 of the 2026 NFL season. So they've got to get working on that. And again, good timing. Good timing will have that. You don't want it happening in the middle of the year, but they can work on that now and then have the baby in the off season. Although with this new album, you never know whether she's going to go on another tour. Maybe I will lose that bet. I don't know. But anyways, it's great. I mean, they're very, very cool, real people. And Jason Kelsey being the guy, I mean, you got out, particularly Taylor. I mean, listen, I did say that I joined the Swifties when we had the Chiefs Kingdom, the Swifties come together when all this happened, and I pledged allegiance to them, and we are a team moving forward. I mean, I still don't have any of the albums, although I think her music's great. But now that we get to this point where it is sort of real, and you know, I'm glad this happened now before the season, and she can kind of focus on her new album and, you know, selling 1 million copies of it, and the Chiefs can get back to football, and then they can live happily ever afterwards, hopefully with another ring for Travis. Yes, Adam Douglas should do a WST cruise. The Winnipeg Sports Talk cruise. Wow, that would be something. I'm not sure whether we could fill an entire cruise ship. We could get a pretty good group. Maybe we'll start off with like a Jets road trip or something before we start doing week-long cruises. But that will be a heck of a lot of fun. Listen, just before we wrap up, back to Coolbet for a minute. We mentioned Jays slight dog tonight, -105. Pretty nice number. We do have an NFL preseason game tonight. Monday Night Football run through Bengals and Commanders. The two teams that basically have had the biggest holdouts. Terry McLaurin for the Commanders, Trey Hendrickson for the Bengals. Micah Parsons, obviously a big issue in Dallas right now. Bengals, 4-point favorites on the road, -208. Commanders, +167. If you're going to check that out. Everything's up at Coolbet tomorrow. We'll have our latest edition of CFL 110 coming out of this week, so make sure to check that out. And, of course, we will be live at Breezy Bend. But if you haven't already, use the promo code WST. And don't forget, anybody that's making a bet at Coolbet this week, screen cap it and send it in. Any $10 bet or more, send it to contest@winnipegsportstalk.com. And on Friday, we will be doing an extra marble race of everyone that entered, and the winner of that one will be going to the Labor Day Classic with myself and Bauming. You can come on the Huss bus for the 1930 crew. Cannot wait for that. Again, contest@winnipegsportstalk.com. Just send in a screen cap of any $10 bet, your Coolbet username, and your contact info, and you will be in for Friday's festivities. Fun show today, Remo. Good to have you back.
Yeah, we really got sidetracked here, which is my favorite part. Just starting with CFL lines and getting into
Tate McRae, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce,
Rex.
Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, we did. You know, you mentioned Hallmark. There was Holiday Touchdown that came out in 2024. I don't know.
Yeah, it's already done one. There's already been a movie spun off on Kelce. And
that was, what was it? A diehard Kansas City Chiefs fan and her family are competing to win the team's Fan of the Year contest in a process judged by Derek, the director of fan engagement. Holiday Touchdown, a Chiefs love story from a TV movie, 2024.
It's now right there with the Christmas Story and all the other holiday greats. Must watch each and every Christmas season. That is going to do it for us. Tomorrow, live from Breezy Bend, we hope to have Eric Comrie on the program, so make sure to join us, and we'll keep you up to date on when CFL 110 is going to drop tomorrow as well. Thanks to Baron Bauming, thanks to Ken Wiebe, and of course, our rugby guest. Good luck to the women of Team Canada, and a special thanks to Emily Tuttosi. We'll be following hers, and hopefully we might be able to hook up again with Emily a little later on in the tournament. Once they take care of business in the round robin, we'll cross our fingers for that. They're playing 11:30 Saturday morning. And that's coming up on TSN. Huge thanks to the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day, and all of you for hanging out with us. Tomorrow we'll be live 1 p.m. from Breezy Bend, looking ahead to the Manitoba Open and the Bombers and Montreal Alouettes on Thursday night. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Have a great one. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.